Gothic fiction has always attracted a diverse array of authors, especially as the years have gone by. As a genre focused on the bleak, on the strange and abnormal, of course it would appeal to writers who feel the same about themselves. Though it was initially published under a male pseudonym, one of the most famous works of Gothic fiction was written by a woman. This alluded to work is none other than Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. It is, in fact, the only novel she ever published, but it stands head and shoulders above many others, including, in my opinion at least, those stories written by her sisters. Wuthering Heights is a tale of tragic romance and twisted love. It takes place in the moors of northern England, a place rife with plentiful mist, terrible weather, and, in the world of the story at least, backwards locals. The nearly accidental protagonist, if I had to say, would be that of the mysterious boy and later man Heathcliff. He is adopted off the street by the Earnshaw family and falls in love with Catherine Earnshaw. When her father dies, Heathcliff is forced into servitude by Catherine's older brother. Meanwhile, Catherine is seduced by the much more civilized and orderly life lived by the neighbors, the Lintons, and eventually marries Edgar Linton. Heathcliff disappears, only to return several years later with money, education, and social status. He attempts to reclaim Catherine, only for her to die in his arms, after which he spends the next 15 years systematically destroying everyone that ever took her from him, including his own child. It's an incredibly dark tale of obsession, revenge, and abuse. It is a book in which nearly every single character is an asshole, but not as much so as Heathcliff himself, whom I would argue is nearly the villain protagonist of the book. Though he himself is a victim of horrible abuse, he refuses to break the cycle, becoming even worse than those who abused him. Of course, there is some catharsis to be found in his tale of revenge. His love for Catherine was genuine, true, and you get the feeling throughout the book that Catherine would have been much happier with him than she is with Linton. However, Heathcliff is a character who is impossible to root for. He simply causes far more evil than has been dealt to him. The house in Fata Morgana has characters who are similarly difficult to break apart morally. Though we have already seen some examples, they were all merely warm-ups for what is to come, though you'll have to wait for the tail end of this video to actually see it manifest in its final form. Fata Morgana also features, at its core, a rather fraught love story. Just like Wuthering Heights, it is a love that transcends all circumstances, although I would argue that Fata Morgana's version is a much more pure love than that found in Bronte's work. However, a similar level of drama is present, and we will spend much of the work desperately hoping that everything works out for them in the end. Despite the terrible ordeals that most of the characters are put through, Wuthering Heights concludes with a quiet, hopeful ending. I can only hope that Fata Morgana features the same. My name is Hedgehog, welcome back to this nonsense, and this is the house in Fata Morgana.
Waking up without a given name, broken by the weight of fear and blame. Shadows dance along the hall, I hear them call. Time's turning like a rusty key, locking up another part of me. Chains are rattling all on the floor, evermore. That door is shut, the light is gone, but still the nightmare carries on. The threads of fate begin to fray. I won't let it end this way. White rose, no without reflection, cast you where our sins will roam. Night won't come without redemption, so I swear it, I will bring you home.
Greetings and salutations, friends. Welcome back to the Theater of Madness and Pain. Last time featured 3 stories of tragedy and woe, and well, this part is much of the same. However, we'll be taking a step away from our previously established cast. They will not be making much of an appearance in this video. I promise they are important and relevant and will return in a big way next time, but Fata Morgana's midsection really pares down its cast and focuses very heavily on a few important characters, and frankly, you may be surprised at who they end up being. It also happens to be one of my favorite parts of this story. There's many reasons for that, and though I'll try not to take up too much of your time with personal ramblings, I hope you won't mind indulging me just a little as we go. I think it may help some of you understand how this story can affect one as deeply as it did me. Before we begin, however, you know what time it is. I gotta say all my bits before we start. First of all, as every single small creator does, I have a Patreon. I do occasional exclusive live streams there and also write-ups of every single visual novel I finish. Listen, if I'm gonna do so much goddamn research to become an expert in the field, I might as well share it, right? After the last video, one or two of you did take me up on my suggestion and started reading my novel Das Vidania. It's available in both text and audio formats on both YouTube and Spotify, and if you like Fata Morgana to any degree, it hits a lot of the same notes, just in completely different ways. I hope you'll give it a shot, and if you do, please shoot me a comment somewhere to let me know what you think. You can also put a comment in the story chat on the Discord server. As a little guy, YouTube does everything it can to keep me down, but we won't let the man have their way. My Discord server features updates on everything I do, which is frankly probably too much. I announce videos, live streams, podcast episodes, everything you can think of there. It's also a great place to talk to me or any of my collaborators personally, as many of us pop in and are more than willing to shoot the shit or answer questions. And my god, those collaborators. None of this, especially not that slick as fuck OP, would have been possible without them. Composers, 3D modelers, editors, and my god, the most talented, enormous voice cast you've ever seen in your life. Okay, well, there's only a couple of them in this particular video, but if you've seen any of my other projects, you know that this YouTube channel can fit so much talent in it, and frankly, I don't think a lot of it's mine. Thanks, as always, for not skipping through that section and listening to me ramble. You didn't skip it, right? And now it's time for our feature presentation, the moment you've all been waiting for. It's time to return to the mansion and see if we can't finally get to the bottom of all the mysteries that are waiting to be solved. So please, whatever you do not let go of my hand. After the ending that was the third door, we find ourselves back in the mansion. If you will recall, we are playing as a faceless, nameless individual with amnesia, and we are here in this mansion to reclaim our memories. We are guided by a strange maid, although she doesn't appear to be present at the moment. This catches us off guard, as we thought she was going to be our waifu for Laifu, but now we find ourselves abandoned. So, while you're alone, you decide to look around a little, and I know a great place to start. How about that painting that we passed by just before we got here? We never got a good look at it, after all.
What's the matter? You lost or just trying to take in the sights?
Who the hell is that? You turn, but there's absolutely no one there, except the painting. There's a voice coming from a landscape painting, although, wait, it looks significantly less landscapey at the moment.
It's been a while since I've talked to anyone. So tell me, you can hear me all right, can't you? Oh, splendid. Been so long since I've had a conversation, I was afraid I might have forgotten how to talk. So tell me, who might you be?
Of course, you don't know, but the painting seems pleased to just have anyone to converse with. You can ask it some questions, and though it doesn't have a whole lot of concrete answers for you, it's nice to speak to someone who isn't purposefully obfuscating things. Maid! As far as who it is, it's hard to say. It doesn't say anything one way or another besides the fact that it's a painting, although it does ponder whether it ended up this way because it used to like art.
Though there are things I painted that I wish I hadn't. Maybe that regret's what's turned me into this. Hopefully I get the chance to apologize to him about that.
It also has no idea who you are. To it, you appear to be a walking cloud of smoke. It thinks you probably haven't regained your memories because you weren't present behind any of the previous doors.
If the next door you open is yours, will you be able to bear it? Will you be able to accept your own tragedy?
The painting claims that, hey, maybe in the end, it's better if your tragedy is rewritten as someone else's, and it warns you to be wary of the next tale. You can ask it about the mansion and the maid as well, but it doesn't really know that much about any of them. It seems people who have connections to the mansion are summoned here, but that its is less great than others. It thanks you for the conversation and offers you one last piece of advice. Maybe you should look around a little, while the maid is away. And finally, it tells you to stick your hand inside the canvas, and it gives you a key. Apparently, it's for the master bedroom. Seems like the maid tossed that key into the painting a while ago, and it's been here ever since. The painting falls silent, so that's our cue to do some snooping. There's a bunch of places we can go, including the entrance, the fireplace where we woke up, the library, and each of the former doors. At the front door, said door is firmly barred shut, but beyond you can hear some faint voices screaming to burn the witch. Odd. Let's not worry about that. I'm sure it's not important. Heading back to the fireplace will net you something strange. You seem to recall a short conversation that you had here with someone about reading books by the fire. At the den, only the lingering scent of cigar smoke remains, and the sound of billiard balls clinking. They are moving entirely on their own. In the cellar, you can hear the sound of ripping meat, and some strange shadow almost attacks you, and in the garden, you see the silhouette of a young man.
This isn't what I wanted. I just wanted a normal, peaceful life. I can't bear being alone. I can't take this.
Though you try to call out to him, he doesn't seem to be able to hear you, and after a moment, the shadow fades away. Finally, let's head up to that master bedroom. Key in hand, we're able to open the door, but before we go, I just wanted to comment how much I love the inclusion of the choices here. You don't have to stick your hand in the mirror, you don't have to grab the key from the painting, and you don't have to come here and open this door. You can close yourself off from the truth, trying to hide from it. Of course, no player would want to do this. Anyone reading this story would want to know all of the mysteries, so in that way you are pushed into doing the things, but there was always the option not to. Beyond the door, the master bedroom is dark and monochrome, just like the rest of the mansion.
Come on, get up! Up with you! See? What did I tell you? It's so much nicer in here with a little light.
The room is suddenly filled with light. You seem to recollect this person in some way. They ask for you to say their name. You reach out to them, but you can't recall it, and their shadow quickly fades away. Yes, I know, to anyone who has played this game, this conversation is much longer, but the problem with adding voice acting is it's very possible to spoil identities with overexposure, so we're just gonna move on. You seem drawn to the chapel at the back of the mansion, the one with the stained glass window of the angel, the archangel Michel, who is said to weigh the souls of the deceased. Master? Master? Oh, there you are, Master. You gave me quite the scare. She expresses concern over missing you, and she seems almost a little frightened to be away. Nevertheless, she sits beside you. The stained glass is quite beautiful, is it not? Every time I see it, it brings a tranquility to my heart. A dreadful, deep-rooted curse afflicts this mansion. However, this room is the one exception. Can you feel the purity that hangs in the air, Master? Of course, one thing to note is that the stained glass window was shattered, remember? By Yukimasa in the second door. But the maid simply explains that we are someplace constructed from memories, so of course it remains here. She asks where you went, and you tell her, but she expresses confusion about the key, claiming she doesn't know anything about it. She quickly brushes this off, as we have another tale to see. The last tale, apparently. And that tracks. This is the last publicly available achievement for the game, after all. Don't look at the length of this video. I am certain you will remember yourself after seeing it. To our feet. The final door is not far. And please, do not let go of my hand. The door is, in fact, in this very room. There is a small metal door here, but this is not the door. That door lies beyond. She pushes this one open and leads you up a long, winding spiral staircase. The maid explains that these stairs lead up to the observation tower, which must be the tower we've been seeing in all the external shots. There is nothing to worry about. You will be fine. It is all in the past. No matter what may happen, so long as you do not let go of my hand, you have nothing to fear. Finally, after a long climb, you reach an old, rotten wooden door, one that appears to be covered with flecks of old blood and small holes. Below you, the chanting of "Kill the Witch" has been taken up again. The maid opens the door, and one last time, it is time to descend into memories. We begin with a young woman running through the forest, a young woman with white hair. The first thing you may have noticed is that this chapter does not continue the trend of moving forward in time. Rather, it goes back far beyond any of the others. We're in the high medieval period right now, fitting for what multiple characters have claimed is the origin of our tragedy.
Darkness spreads as far as the eye can see. Not a ray of light shines down upon me. All that strokes my cheek are tendrils of darkness.
She seems to have lost her pursuers, who are of course still screaming about burning the witch in the distance, and apparently she's been on the run for a very long time. She gets down on her knees and says a brief prayer, and it is just then that the mansion comes into view between the trees. It seems abandoned, its windows boarded up, the architecture in ruins. She speaks to God again.
If this is where you have led me, then I shall follow your guidance.
She approaches the door, which miraculously opens for her.
Looking in, I get the strangest impression light is being swallowed up into the mansion's depths. Rather than going inside, it feels as though I'm about to step outside the boundaries of this world.
As the door shuts behind her, she is entirely bathed in darkness. She doesn't even have a single candle. Still, she creeps forward, and slowly, she comes upon a room with a hint of light in it. There's a massive drape covering something, and so she pulls it aside, only to reveal a stained glass window.
It's gorgeous. Why would someone cover this up? It's beautiful. With a little more light, it'd be...
Please do not touch the drapes or the windows.
So, this scene might be starting to feel a little familiar. It's looking pretty similar to the one we saw in the mirror, isn't it? I guess the painting and the maid weren't lying. It's looking like this door is definitely going to give us some answers about ourselves. The white-haired girl apologizes. She thought the mansion was abandoned, but it turns out this mysterious young man lives here, all alone. He offers to give her directions, or some of the furniture if she needs money, but the white-haired girl can't leave. She explains her situation, though Michel still seems hesitant.
And do you ask this of me, aware of how people refer to this mansion? It is said that a witch once lived in this house. And not just any witch. A cursed witch.
But of course, it seems that Michel is living here just fine. He explains that he is cursed as well, and that the white-haired girl's life will be endangered if she stays near him.
To live with me in this mansion is to sentence yourself to death.
No matter what path I choose, I very much doubt I have a future. And if that's the case, then I shall live how I want. I don't care what people say about you, or this mansion. I wish to stay here.
Michel asks her what she's running from, what her sin is.
I am accused of being a witch.
So, as you can see, we're off to a very dramatic...
Upon my blood did you build your lives. A sin so great it shall never be forgiven. And by my blood were your lives extinguished. This is the power granted unto me by God. My blood shall become a curse, blotting out the stars. I am the witch, Morgana. Now let us begin a tale. The beautiful finale to this world.
Start. You may have noticed that this first scene was not narrated to us by the maid, rather by the white-haired girl herself. This happened before in door 2 with Pauline, but now let us return to the maid, who apologizes for flinging us through the door so suddenly. You tell her you've seen the white-haired girl, and the maid explains that, of course, since this era is so far back in the past, the white-haired girl's appearance is not just seen as odd, but as actively demonic. The maid also confirms that this is indeed the final tale. This is as far back as she can take you.
This is where it all began. The mansion's curse, the truth of the witch, and your identity. All of this should be made known. If, after this tale, you are still unable to reclaim your old self, then there is nothing more I can do. So I ask of you, please do not let go of my hand until it is all over. Now then, let us begin a beautiful, tragic love story of two solitary souls trapped in a mansion of darkness.
As previously stated, despite Michel's warnings, the white-haired girl has decided to reside in the mansion. I mean, it's not like she has much of a choice, really. She's an industrious girl, and so she tracks Michel back down almost immediately and asks him if there's anything she can do to repay him for letting her stay there.
You need not feel indebted to me. The weight of that obligation will only turn into disdain.
Damn, this guy's fucking dramatic, which means this is yet another case of entirely accurate casting! The white-haired girl insists that she has to do something, so Michel says to basically do whatever she wants, as long as she follows one rule: to not enter his room.
What's in the west?
It's forbidden!
And then he simply just walks off without waiting for an answer. What an asshole. But the maid is quick to defend him.
Michel was not, I believe, spurning her. He was merely disinterested. Words simply did not seem to affect him at all. Not only was the mansion a prison for his body was also a prison ensnaring his heart.
However, in the poor white-haired girl's twisted perceptions, this disinterest almost seems to her a kindness, so she sets about cleaning the mansion as well as she can. She can't open the windows, most of them are literally rusted shut, but she still does the best she can by candlelight. Seems like this mansion has a lot of candles. Maybe Michel makes them, I don't know. One day, she happens upon a room she's never been to before. A library. Reminder, we are now back in the times before printing presses, so having this many books in one place is fucking nuts to her. And yet, all of them are covered in dust. One on a high shelf catches her eye, and though she is pretty short, the white-haired girl still reaches for it anyway. Unfortunately, all of the books have been here so long that they're kinda stuck together, and so she ends up bringing the whole shelf right down on her head. As she's recovering from her tumble, a shadow falls across her. It's Michel.
I'm so sorry. Your books,
There's no need to panic. You make it sound as though I'm admonishing you.
He asks her if she wanted to read one, and though she states that she was here to clean, he tells her that she can read any of the books she wants. Alas, medieval times, this bitch don't know how to read. Still, he says she can utilize them however she likes. She expresses wonder at how many he has, and how long it must have taken him to gather them all.
1 per month. My family sends me one every month.
Counting the amount of books that are here, well, he's been here for a real long time, clearly. He says they're useless to him, but if she's interested, at least someone will be having a good time. He starts to leave, but before he does, the white-haired girl asks his name. I realize that I have been calling him Michel this whole time, which I guess is spoilers, but the text box says so it isn't really a secret.
You don't need my name to...
I want to, though.
Michel.
She says that it suits him, as even through the dark he looks to be a rather handsome man, befitting of an angelic name, but he disagrees. Hesitantly, he also asks her name.
My name is Giselle. Please, call me Giselle.
Holy shit! Finally! We finally got the damn white-haired girl's name! Oh my god, what a revelation! And it's a name. You know, I thought it was gonna be a bit of a reveal, considering that it's been hidden from us for so long, but Giselle's nice. We kinda knew that already, from the mirror scene, but it's cool. The script will continue to refer to her as the white-haired girl from here on out, so I guess I will too. My curse continues evermore. The white-haired girl tells him that she's glad she finally had a real chance to converse with him, and Michel seems almost a little disturbed by this.
You gain nothing by speaking to me. You have no responsibility to do so, and there is no need for you to feel joy about it.
Jesus Christ, this guy does not know how to interact with people. He really has lived all alone for that fucking long. He once again cautions her that his curse will someday kill her, but she kind of brushes it off. She's still alive now, after all. She insists that she'd like to talk to him more. He says she really shouldn't, that he's dumb and stupid and cursed and dumb, but she still insists anyway. Which leads him to asking her a question. After everything she's been through, how can she trust him so easily? How can she not resent everyone? She admits that he's correct and she's been treated horribly, and he almost makes to leave.
If you don't mind, could you teach me how to read sometime?
Did you listen to anything I said?
I listened, yes. I have no intention of idolizing you. I don't expect you to do anything for me, and I don't wish to burden you in any way. I simply wish to be allowed to be at your side.
Oh shit, any fans of Japanese media know that when she drops the "I wanna stay by your side" line, she wants the dick. Michel quickly flees the scene, but he seems a bit rattled by everything she just said. And the white-haired girl is convinced that, despite everything, they are just alike. A week passes, but Michel stays in his chambers, and so the white-haired girl is really unable to speak to him much at all, until one day she heads down to the cellar and realizes they are low on food and that somebody's going to have to go down to the village to get more. But neither of them can really do that now, can they? She makes to go to Michel's chambers to ask where he gets his food from, but she happens to run into him in the entryway. She asks her question and...
What if I told you I don't eat? That I'm not of this world? And as such, I have no need of sustenance. What would you think of that?
That sounds very, economical?
But, Tish. Michel was, of course, trying to scare her, but it didn't really work. Turns out that the food situation is exactly why he is here, waiting in the entryway. There is a knock on the door, and after waiting a moment for said knocker to leave, Michel invites the white-haired girl to check outside. And indeed, there is a large crate at her feet. She drags it in, and Michel does not help her. What a dickhole. He draws a knife and cuts the rope on the crate and tells her to open it. Inside is food, though for some reason she was a little nervous about it, and a book. 1 book a month. Michel's family sent him this. But why did no one speak to him? For that matter, why is he here all by himself in this crumbling mansion? Instead of bottling these questions up, she actually just straight up asks him.
I told you this the very first day. I am cursed. It's only natural for a cursed man to live in a cursed house.
She argues that she doesn't know anything, what his curse is, or if it really exists at all. Michel thinks about that for a moment, and then tells her to come with him. And holy shit, they actually go outside! It's dark by now, but still. According to Michel, there are a lot of things buried in this garden. A lot of small critters.
They were all killed by me. Or rather, they lost their lives because of me.
As if in demonstration, a butterfly suddenly descends into the garden and Michel holds out his finger, which it comes to rest upon like he's a fucking Disney princess.
All that comes into contact with me loses its life. My skin, the breath I exhale, my flesh and blood, is poison to all life.
And then the butterfly literally fucking dies. Oh my god, that's metal as hell. So, yeah, Michel being cursed is not like a vague thing or a metaphor. He is literally cursed to kill anything that touches him. God damn. We've been marred in like some vaguely supernatural shit this whole time, but this is pretty intense. That's obviously why the servant who drops off the food never speaks to Michel, why he's all alone in this abandoned mansion. And a lot of pieces are falling into place for the white-haired girl. He didn't help her up in the library and made sure that only one of them was touching the box at the entrance at any one time. It was out of consideration for her. He claims he just doesn't like people. And Michel is like, so you understand why I'm all alone and why you should really leave too. But all the white-haired girl can think about is how lonely he must have been all this time.
I will not leave. I will stay here with you. Why do you try to drive me out? If you don't care for others as you say, if you're not concerned about anyone else, then what does it matter what I do? What does it matter if I die to your curse?
She insists that, deep down, he's a good person, that he's made sure not to touch her all this time, that on the day she arrived he heard her out without trying to, burn her at the stake or anything. But Michel can't quite understand her.
Do you not value your life? Are you not afraid of death? Do you not find me unpleasant?
The thing I fear most is loneliness.
She goes on to be a little more practical. Sure, by now she could just sneak away and get out of Dodge, but the same shit will just end up happening to her wherever she goes. The only way to avoid the fear of others is to stay away from them. But she can't do that.
I'm afraid of having to spend day after day with no one to talk to. No one to share my experiences, my thoughts, my feelings with. If that's what awaits me out there, then I want to live with you. Please, don't chase me out.
You are a cruel girl.
Michel explains how hard his life has been, how his very first victim was his mother right after he was born, then his wet nurse shortly followed. How he even lived to be old enough to take care of himself is a fucking mystery to me. Eventually, it was Michel who couldn't take it anymore and exiled himself to this mansion. The white-haired girl vows that she will never let him touch her, that she will never cause an accident to occur.
I feel like we're two of a kind. I fear being utterly alone more than anything. And I think you understand just how scary that is.
Why are you so stubbornly insistent on it being me? I'm sure there's someone else out there. Someone you're meant to be with.
But no, it can't be anyone else. Because the white-haired girl has something to confess.
I might really, really love you.
Whoa, that was quick. It's been like a week, which is a little weird. I mean, up until this point, all of the romance has been very well supported. Mell falls in love with the white-haired girl over the course of a month or more. A much larger portion of Yuki Mosa's chapter than I illustrated was spent setting up his and Pauline's dynamic and love, and the white-haired girl of Jacopo's chapter has one incredibly intense experience with him that she clings desperately onto. But here, these two have only interacted a handful of times, and none of them have been particularly charged or anything. It's just a bit odd how out of nowhere this comes. However, it feels to me as if this chapter is definitely trying to play off of fairy tales and maybe even Arthurian-style romances a little here, so I'm willing to let it slide.
His was a power that evoked images of witches or demons, the unclean and the impure. A mere touch was all it took for him to strip man and beast alike of its life. God has quite a cruel streak to bestow such a power upon such a beautiful young man. And a strange power it was indeed, like something out of a fairy tale.
Even the maid agrees with me, I guess. Michel seems very taken aback by this declaration, so he just says that he'll think about it and fucking books it.
While he was not someone who wore his heart on his sleeve, I personally do not believe he was completely devoid of emotions. He had simply forgotten how to express them in his extended solitude. So I think he was, in that moment, in a state of complete panic.
God, she's like a white knight in Michel's YouTube comments section. Holy moly. Anyway, several days pass after that, and the white-haired girl has seen neither hide nor hair of Michel. Up till this point, she's kept away from his chambers, as he requested, but she's getting super anxious now and at least wants to apologize for upsetting him. And so she finds herself right outside his door, repeatedly raising her hand to knock and failing. Finally, she steels herself and makes to knock for real, only for the door to open right in front of her. Michel panics. He almost walked right into her, before admonishing her for disobeying him and coming to his chambers. She apologizes profusely for both right now and the other day, saying she shoved her feelings onto him, that it wasn't fair to him, and that if he really wants her to leave, she'll do it without a struggle. This confuses him entirely. Why the sudden change of heart?
You holed up in your room for so long that I thought, you didn't want me around.
No, that is not the case. He was just thinking long and hard about what to do. In fact, he's come up with a little solution for her. He invites her into his room and shows her a necklace. One with a little bell on it. That way he'll always know when she's coming so he can avoid running into her or anything like that. They do the whole Japanese song and dance of telling each other to use their first names with each other, but because this is medieval Europe, it comes across as really weird because they probably would already be on a first name basis. Michel tells her that she's a strange girl for not being afraid of the darkness, and she makes a joke about being sensitive to the sun like some unholy abomination.
You are anything but unholy. My name would suit you much better than me.
We get a bit of Michel narration, and he essentially acknowledges that he too is falling for the white-haired girl, and so begin their quiet days in the mansion. They begin eating together, and Michel also teaches the white-haired girl how to read. She asks him if he's read all the books in the mansion, but apparently he finds fiction tedious. It's all made-up nonsense anyway. However, the white-haired girl claims that even if they're not real, they can give you a glimpse into the writer's heart. On this particular day, they pick out a book of local legends, and the white-haired girl happens to read one called The Witch. It's about, well, a witch who is burned at the stake when the village experiences a drought. As soon as she dies, the smoke from the fire turns into rain clouds, and the village is saved. Unfortunately, that same rain carries madness, and the villagers begin to kill each other. However, she did still technically give them what they wanted, as the crops were saved.
The witch still lived on, in the form of a curse. Thus, the legend has been passed down as follows. The witch will grant your wish in exchange for great sacrifice. As smoke in the sky, she watches down upon us from above. To reach the witch, climb for the heavens, but know that road is a road to destruction.
This kind of sounds like what Michel first said when the white-haired girl arrived, that a witch lived in the house. And yes, in a way, the witch that lives in this house is kind of supposed to be the same one from the legend. Of course, that means that people have probably come here in the past to seek a wish from the witch. Michel asks the white-haired girl what she'd do if she met her.
It might be nice to talk to her, maybe. I feel a little bad for her, though. The only people who ever visit her are there to ask for something, after all. I can only imagine how lonely that must be.
Michel is still confused by her brain, but he does mention that he might know what the part of the legend about climbing to the heavens might mean. This mansion has an observation tower attached to it, and he offers to take the white-haired girl to it. It is, of course, right off the chapel, and is the only place in the mansion where the windows are not covered. At the top is a small room with only one window, but that small amount of light is enough to give Michel pause.
The man who never flinched at anything, who had long since distanced himself from such stirrings of the heart, was utterly bewitched. For someone who had been chased out of her home and accused of being a witch, the white-haired girl looked less like a practitioner of the dark arts and more like one of the host of heaven.
It seems that the white-haired girl, upon seeing him, is equally enchanted. She comments that there seems to be something in the air here, like someone might be listening.
My dear friend, the two of us have much more in common with each other than anyone else. We both suffered at others' hands, and we both deserve our vengeance.
Michel asks her what she would say to the witch, were she here.
I would ask her to tell me her true feelings, to tell me what kind of person she was, and what kind of pain she had to endure. I just want to know what she felt, this woman people branded a witch.
Michel doesn't know who this woman really was. The legend doesn't say after.
Go on. What's the matter? Make this tale into your reality. Surrender yourself in this moment to this beautiful story and remain here in the mansion with Giselle. Watch in this moment, this dream.
Who are you?
Well, that's a surprise. You actually have a conscious mind. I must say, I am impressed you made it back here, my dear. Your soul was ground into dust. It will all come back to you eventually. And then I'll be there with you again, my dear, whispering into your ear for centuries to come. And this time I will not fail. I'll mold your soul into the same shape as mine.
All. The white-haired girl ponders and thinks that if she was the witch, she'd want to be able to lift Michel's curse so that they could touch. She's more than content with this, but she'd like to...
Giselle? We once read a book together. It was by the fireplace.
You did not. Books belong in the library. Why would they be by the fireplace?
Dream. Michel wishes for the same thing, and though they don't touch, they reach their hands out for each other.
I am imagining your fingers running through my hair, brushing up against my skin.
Curse them, slaughter them, revile them, inflict eternal suffering on all their souls. Take revenge on the fools who laughed as we agonized.
The maid laments the wall that could not be crossed between them, but comments on the pure beauty of their love. But alas, in this tale of tragedy, nothing good can last forever. One day, the white-haired girl hears a knock on the front door. Thinking it must be that month's delivery, she opens it, only to reveal a strange vagrant. He asks if she's the witch who grants wishes, but of course, she has no such power. He rants and raves, claiming he can hear the witch's voice and to let him hear, but all the white-haired girl can do is insist there is no witch. The man then simply decides that since he's so hungry and she's just an ordinary girl, that he's going to eat her. What a lunatic! She struggles, but of course she's our demure heroine, so she is powerless to stop him. Luckily for her, Michel is here to save the day, our knight in sour armor. He throws his candlestick to the ground where it sputters and dies. The vagrant pulls out a knife and cuts Michel, but that's never gonna stop him. He simply grabs the man by his face.
You don't appear to know whose house you tried to break into. Regret your ignorance to your very last breath. I inherited the witch's curse.
Of course, feeling Michel's curse working on him, but unsure of what is happening, he flees the mansion in fear. The two take stock. Michel is bleeding, and the white-haired girl apologizes, but Michel is just happy he could use his curse for something good for once.
Had the flame from Michel's candle not gone out when he threw it to the floor, he would have seen a heartfelt smile on the white-haired girl's face. He also might have seen a little glimmer on her cheek, where a few drops of his blood had landed. But alas, they had no light.
So, yeah, now the white-haired girl is dying. Because it was only his blood and not his skin, or maybe because it was just a drop, her decline is slow, agonizing, painful. Michel, of course, beats himself to shit over this, but the white-haired girl is an angel, as always, and asks him to stay with her until the end.
I'm happy, Michel. Happier than I have ever been. And I mean that. You didn't just save my life, you saved me.
However, deep down, she worries what he'll do when she's gone. She asks him to hold her hand, since she's dying anyway, but he refuses. He doesn't want her to die a horrifying husk. He will not—
Dark. It's dark. How long have I been in the darkness? Where could she have gone? Where could she? Giselle. Yes. Her smile shines so bright it can cast away the darkness. I must take her hand. Take her hand. But I'm cursed. That would kill her. No. This is mine.
Touch her. Until one day, very close to the end, Michel hears voices outside the manor. It seems they are here to kill the witch. Since the vagrant didn't die immediately, he must have made it back down to the village and told them what happened before he met his demise. Of course, even if he can't kill with a touch, Michel is helpless against a mob. They begin breaking down the door, and he freezes, unsure of what to do, until the white-haired girl appears behind him. She already knows what's happening. She thinks they're coming for her. She insists that he hand her over to the mob, but of course, he refuses.
But you're not a witch.
They need someone to fill the role, though. So please, hand me over, and then escape on your own.
She begs, but he's the cursed one here, and without her, he is nothing.
I have no interest in a world that would take you away from me. To hell with such a world. Would you be willing to die with me?
If that is what you wish, then stay with me until the very end.
Still, they run. They will spend their final moments in the observation tower. Even though the white-haired girl is dying, even though Michel can't touch her, they still make it to the top. They exchange final words of love, and the white-haired girl has one request. Since she's dying anyway, she wants him to embrace her. And so he does. And so she dies.
She's still so beautiful. What a cruel joke. Could you not have given us some other miracle? One that would allow us both to survive?
The voices are drawing closer. Michel leaves the white-haired girl in a patch of sunlight in the tower, and goes to meet his fate.
I am the witch you seek. I have inherited her curse, and it is I who brings calamity upon you.
They hesitate briefly. He isn't the girl. But still, they stab him.
I have no need for this life any longer. It's all yours. Not even one of you will leave this place. Wither and die by my curse.
Of course, he's been stabbed. His blood goes everywhere. And then, the white-haired girl awakens. As it turns out, she was not dead at all. Rather, she was just clinging to life, just long enough for Michel to be killed, just long enough for his curse to be broken. She opens the door, looking for Michel.
And I am sure you know just what it was she laid eyes upon in that moment. The ravaged corpse of her beloved, a torrent of blood streaming down, down, down the spiral staircase, and the sickening stench it raised.
The bodies of the mob are here as well, instantly killed by Michel's curse. The white-haired girl collapses, sobbing.
Why, you said we would go together. A world without you has no meaning.
She had survived, been left utterly alone. I felt a profound pity for the miserable girl, so I called out to her. Would you like to see him once more?
I see. Yeah, up until this point I haven't really mentioned it because, didn't want to spoil anything, but there have definitely been hints here and there that the maid, that the maid might actually be this oft-mentioned witch. I mean, it makes sense if you think about it. She's been present in every story thus far. She is always the one admonishing the characters at the ends of their tales, and she seems to have a distinct knowledge of the white-haired girl. Said girl asks who is speaking, and the maid indirectly confirms that she is indeed the witch Morgana. And of course, the witch is said to grant wishes, even if they come at a price. Though she hesitates, the white-haired girl acquiesces that yes, she would like to see him again.
Regrettably, I cannot directly meddle with the forces of life and death. However, I can guarantee you this: your reconstruction. To ensure that you remain as yourself in future lives, and are not reborn as someone else, your body and mind shall be reconstructed, as shall his.
She explains that in order for their love to exist again, they must still be each other the next time they meet. Otherwise, what would be the point?
Me, as I am, and he, as he is?
The witch urges her to make up her mind, and with little hesitation, she does. She agrees.
As you wish, sweet little girl. I shall grant you both eternal reconstruction, and pray with all my heart that you can attain true happiness.
Immediately after this encounter, the white-haired girl took her own life, hoping to speed up the process of reuniting. And with that, the curtain closes on our tale. Holy shit! Okay, pieces are starting to come together. We now know why the white-haired girl has been present in every story. She's been waiting for Michel, but for whatever reason, Michel hasn't appeared. And there's still the question of who we actually are. We're not quite done yet. We return to the mansion bathed in darkness now, so maybe the maid will have a little more info for us.
But an unfathomable amount of time has passed, and the two have still yet to reunite. Have they, Master? You know now who you are, do you not? You were present in every single era, because you yearned to reunite with someone, but that person never showed up, in any era, and poor, sweet you, having no memory of any of that, live those lives with other men. Is it any surprise misfortune befell those eras, then?
Ah, I see. The reason for the tragedies is because the white-haired girl because we didn't stay true to Michel. Of course, I'm sure another bubbling idea in your brain by this point is that we are playing as the white-haired girl, and if you guessed that, then bravo! I mean, it only makes sense. Besides the maid, who we've confirmed as the witch, there's only one other character present for all of them. And otherwise, why would the maid bother to show us these other eras at all? The maid expresses her pity for the white-haired girl, ground up again and again into the gears of fate, and still, after all this time, Michel is not here. There is only the witch Morgana and Giselle, the white-haired girl. However, the maid has a proposition for you, or rather, her, to end this cycle, to stop looking for Michel, and to stay in the mansion with the maid forever.
Please, do it for me. I have been waiting for you for so very long. I have wanted nothing more than to see you again. But you were continually stolen away from me, despite my sincerest desires to spend my days with you. Spend eternity with me in the gentle embrace of darkness.
And so, you were offered a choice. Accept or reject her proposition. Should you accept, you will receive the first bad ending. You will live with her in the cold, dark mansion forever. But who's to say that the darkness can't be comforting? Of course, it seems like the correct choice is to reject her offer. If you do that, you make a mad dash through the mansion, out into the light, and are reborn again, in what seems like modern Paris. You happen to see a man with white hair crossing the road. You run after him, only to be hit by a passing truck. This is the second bad ending. However, if you reached your hand into the mirror, if you got the key from the painting, and if you used it to unlock the master bedroom, you receive a third option.
There is still more to be done.
Something is off. Maybe you simply felt it on a narrative level. The ending of the last chapter was too simple, too clean. How have the minor plots within the previous tragedies been more complicated than this? Maybe you felt it on a plot level. Some details are not adding up. Specifically, if you'll recall back to the first video when we first saw Michel, and then you look at the same scene from this video, you'll realize there is a discrepancy. Giselle, the white-haired girl, was never the one who claimed to be a witch. Rather, it was Michel himself. You can also think back to what the painting said, how it told you to look out for the next tale. And what about that other woman, the one you keep remembering? None of those memories occurred in the previous chapter, after all. And there's one other thing. I must confess that I've been keeping something from you. On the first go-around, most people will never see this. However, throughout the whole of the previous chapter, there have been some discrepancies between the words on the screen and the text in the backlog. Many words have been X'd out, and what's more, there have been whole conversations added between characters whose identities remain a mystery to us. In fact, at one point, one of these characters outright states that this tale is fake, and... Wait, you already knew that? That's weird. I could have sworn...
You, having been trapped in perpetual darkness, found light in that same house where I withered away. The light was bestowed upon you by a certain woman, was it not? Leave everything to me, my dear. I promise I shall make this into a most beautiful tale. You do not wish to know the truth, and I can make better use of her like this. So it is to both of our benefits to rewrite the woman you love.
That I've been showing them to you this whole time. And you remember something. You remember being lost in an eternal darkness.
You threw it away every single time.
I must break out of this darkness, because that's the reason.
Oh, I've got a wonderful idea.
I came here.
You can curse them with me.
I must return. I must reclaim.
You are only given one choice. To reclaim yourself.
This is brilliant. Do you have any idea why I fabricated that story? It was all for you. So stay here. stay right where you are. The darkness suits you better.
You must reclaim yourself.
If the secret you had kept buried away for so long had come out, you couldn't possibly have endured it.
You must reclaim yourself.
Don't get your hopes up, my dear. There's nothing for you there. You have nothing. I'm offering you a place by my side. You should just take it. There is no salvation for you anywhere. None. At all. Anywhere. From anyone. Ever.
But still, you will reclaim yourself. And you realize something. The last story you just experienced with Michel and the white-haired girl, it was all a lie. The white-haired girl was never at the mansion.
No, that was the truth. Because of what happened then, you spent innumerable years lost, until you showed up here and... what?
It seems the maid is realizing the differences in her own memory. You hold on tight. You reclaim yourself. The former haze around your person dissipates. From now on, we shall no longer refer to our protagonist as you, for he has an identity. That's right. This entire time we've been playing not as the white-haired girl.
My voice, my body, my fingers. My arms are frail and my joints weak. But despite my resemblance to the white-haired girl, I am not her. You weren't waiting for the white-haired girl, you were waiting for me. That's exactly why I came here.
The maid continues to deny this. She's always been waiting for the white-haired girl. But this time, Michel will say her name. She is.
There was never a white-haired girl. There was only... Giselle. There was only you.
I am... Giselle? No, I am not Giselle. I am a servant of this house, and I am the witch, the cause...
You are not a witch. Why do you insist you're the witch? What changed you so much?
Michel is convinced that the maid is, in fact, Giselle. But she's changed so much from his recollection. What happened to her? He realizes that whatever it is, he needs to face it. His own past. And hers. Still, the maid insists. But no, it can't be true. Behind all the other doors was ugliness, conflicting motivations, humanity. There was none of that in the door previous. She is trying to turn something real into a beautiful fairy tale. And so, whatever happens, you must make her remember.
If you're afraid of what you might find, we can remember together. I haven't gotten everything back yet myself, so let's open the real door. Together.
There are no other doors to open.
However, there is but one more. It's not a physical door. Rather, it's the door to the maid's heart. He grasps her hand tightly.
No matter what we may uncover, I will not let go of this hand. No, I mustn't let go of it.
And together, the two fall into darkness. Allow me to waylay you just a little bit before we continue. I know, you're just dying to know what happens next, but we've got to take a step back and talk about what just happened, because this has been one of the most complicated, difficult twists I have ever seen in storytelling. I have never been so convinced in the reality of a situation, only to be so completely flabbergasted by an entirely different revelation. And not only is that revelation shocking, but the more you think about it, the more sense it makes. And a lot of the reasons were pointed out within the text itself. You get the feeling Hanada was very aware that if not properly supported, this twist would seem like a fucking rug pull. But it doesn't. And I know it's not just me. I mentioned previously that for my reread, I took Mice Man on the journey with me, and the main reason for that was to see if this twist would work on him just as strongly as it did on me. And my God, was I right. Man was so smug thinking he got it all figured out, only to be utterly mollywopped by this shit. So let's talk about what makes it work. For the most part, it's all about subtext. If you'll notice, the maid talks to you in very specific ways before you remember who you are. She's very gentle to you, almost like a mother. She even comments that you're shaking as you encounter the beast in the cellar. All of this is done because in the story at the time, she believes you to be the white-haired girl, and of course the narrative wants you to as well. And though I glossed over a lot of them for time, the story does the same with the maid. Multiple times we get characters commenting on how creepy and unnerving she is. As the narrator, she seems nearly omnipotent, and of course, as I mentioned before, she's always the one giving the kind of moral lesson to the suitors at the end of each chapter. Suitors of the white-haired girl, of course. It just makes more sense to lump them together like that. It seems like she's in control of the situation much more than she is at first glance, because although the maid herself also makes several comments about things not being her role or otherwise being unable to help the characters, we are already being conditioned by the narrative to mistrust her, and so we subconsciously shrug off these comments. The narrative itself kind of relies on its length to make you forget details. There are a few lines that I purposefully danced around in this video specifically because any lines I pick out immediately draws attention to them. It's a lot harder to slip shit in, so sorry about that. And then we get to the 4th chapter itself. Should you happen to check the backlog at just the right time, which I made sure Miceman did, you might notice there's hidden text there. In fact, I had forgotten how straightforward it was at times and was kind of afraid that he would guess the twist from those, considering the fact that one of the characters outright states this story to be fake. But no, somehow it all slid right past him and he entirely forgot. There's a lot of shit going on in this story at the time, so honestly it makes sense. Now, of course, the story, and specifically the maid, has lied to you already at several points, but we have certainly not been conditioned to think that the entire chapter could be made up. Of course, there are a lot of little oddities about this chapter, and Hanada makes damn sure you notice them. You are supposed to think there's something a little funky going on here, but those in themselves act as misdirection. You're trying to think about why all of these different little things are happening that you lose sight of what they actually are. For example, the game glitches out at several points throughout the door. I didn't just add those for flair, it's a motif I replicated on purpose to match. It is glitches that happen specifically because you're playing a video game. It is the most meta way to illustrate that something is wrong, that the game is breaking down. But as a reader, you're probably more concerned about why there are glitches within this very historical Baroque sort of story. In addition, Hanada preys on those more narratively inclined. I feel like people who are storytellers, reminder, both Miceman and I have degrees essentially in literature analysis, are even more susceptible to falling for the ruse, because the very story itself is designed to make us get lost in the weeds. As Michel just commented, this tale felt way too much like a fairy tale. Compared to everything else that has come before it, the characters are uncomplicated, clean, more ideals than actual people. Michel is lonely and a bit misanthropic, sure, but really under all that is a tragic hero in the very classical style. And the white-haired girl is even more of a pure angel than in the previous chapters. Any personality she had in them has been sucked completely out. In the last video, I mentioned that each of the white-haired girl's incarnations had a slightly different bend to their personalities. But what can you say about this white-haired girl at all that isn't a traditional Christian value? The story is flat, lifeless. It plays out much more like a traditionally told Arthurian romance than it does the other tales we've seen thus far. And you've probably noticed, but that wasn't enough to tip you off to why. Until you have the answer, of course, and then it all clicks into place. There's one more bit of misdirection I want to talk about, and then we can move on. It's about Michel's curse. To most people, something about it seems out of place, but at the time you might not understand why. The answer is pretty simple, and is actually the first reason why the second door had to take the bullet for the narrative. Up until this point, we have been surrounded by supernatural bullshit. We are stuck in a mansion in a void, miraculously teleported to events of the past, and there's at least 2 characters who are seemingly showing up in every one of them. However, with a few very minor exceptions, like the white-haired girl turning the white flower red, almost nothing within the stories themselves has been supernatural. Everything has been entirely within the realm of possibility. Even the beast turned out to just be a guy. However, let's pause on that. Even if the cause was ultimately racism, still trying to get over that one, we spend so much time in that chapter being told that the beast is some weird fucking creature that it has subconsciously conditioned us that weird shit has happened within the stories, even if it hasn't. Michel being literally cursed is definitely a bit more blatant than anything that's happened before, but entirely within the realm of possibility, until you remember, of course, that it isn't. It is inconsistent with the rest of the narrative. that the beast was just a guy, that there was nothing supernatural about anything else in any of the previous doors. But upon another glance, playing by the rules kind of established by the setting thus far, a guy with the ability to kill anyone he touches is a pretty ridiculous idea and obviously fake. Sorry, Maid. Like I said, this twist is fucking nuts, but I've spent more hours than I probably should have thinking about how it's been accomplished. But we're not done yet. No. At this point, I would say that we're not even at the halfway point of our tale. However, this is the time when instead of more questions, we finally start getting a few answers. Along with more questions. So let's go. Let's see what really happened in that mansion so many years ago. At the start of everything. And oh boy, it's a doozy.
The coachman was frustratingly taciturn. He acted as though he had gotten stuck transporting a prisoner, though that was hardly a stretch. From his point of view, I was nothing more than a criminal.
From here on out, we will be referring to the maid as Giselle, for that is, quite obviously, her name. Giselle is not running through a forest chased by a mob as the white-haired girl was. Instead, she is being transported in a carriage to a mansion in the middle of the woods.
How did I end up here? Why was I being subjected to this? The more I thought on it, the less fair it seemed. The more I remembered, the worse it hurt. All I could do was close my eyes and weather the storm.
So it seems she's not here of her own free will, but for the moment, no more details are apparent. Still, the mansion appears through the trees. The coachman drops her off and promptly leaves without a word. What a jackass. She enters the mansion, and just like the previous chapter, the inside is entirely dark. The windows are all boarded up. Searching for some light, Giselle wanders through the mansion and eventually comes upon a door, beyond which is a window covered only by a drape. So she pulls it off, and there is the stained glass window.
Please do not touch the drapes. Or the windows.
Of course, there he is, right on cue. It's the boy. Giselle asks if this is his mansion, and yes, it is. Giselle was worried that it was abandoned.
I suspect you would have preferred it if the house were abandoned.
Oh, not at all. I would be scared to death of staying in this dark mansion all by myself. I'm sorry. No ill will intended. But I do think it could do with some light. That way you could see where you were walking, and I'm sure this room would look splendid illuminated.
Not necessary. I make do perfectly as things are.
So, as you can see, there's some immediate differences of personality in play here. Perhaps this is my bias showing, but Giselle is immediately more likable than the fourth door's white-haired girl. She's pleasant and opinionated, and it will be interesting to see how that plays against Michel's slight misanthropy. Or maybe not slight. He's already a bit more taciturn here than he was in the fake tale. And it's about to get a lot worse.
It is not your place to criticize my lifestyle. If you need light, you are free to leave.
So as you can see, he's got a bit of a douchey streak. Like the fake version, he tells her that she's welcome to the furniture to try to sell it, and again, Giselle states that she can't go back. Again, he mentions the witch, but Giselle's mind is made up. And when Giselle's mind is made up, there's very little that can change it. Also, she's convinced that the story of the witch is entirely fake.
The witch is real. Very much so. It is not a legend nor a fairy tale. The witch.
The witch's name was Morgana.
Is me.
The other interesting thing about this chapter is that, unlike the previous, which were almost exclusively narrated by the maid, this chapter has dual narration. Both Michel and Giselle narrate this chapter, and the text boxes are color-coded for your convenience.
Yes, that was our first encounter. It was nothing flowery or dramatic. It was, rather, laced with suspicion and wariness. We knew nothing about one another, and I had no interest in changing that. But nonetheless, that was where it all began, where my history with her commenced.
So, yeah, remember how both times we've seen this scene, we've ended on a super dramatic note like this? Well, as it turns out, this is not how that encounter actually ended. Instead... Oh, wow. Here I was thinking you were kind of scary, and it turns out you're actually quite funny. A lot of what this chapter is about is finding the persons behind the tales. The dramatic nature of the previous chapter is stripped away, and what we're left with is a story of two real people. Not doomed lovers, not heinous tragedy, just two people. This does occasionally lead to more cringy, modern-sounding dialogue, but for the most part, the story still manages to communicate what it wants to. Anyway, Giselle thinks he's joking, and Michel gets really salty about it, stating that the definition of a witch is a lot broader than just a woman who practices magic. Giselle argues that the average mental image is definitely that of a woman, though, so obviously he can't be a witch.
To tell you the truth, I didn't know who might be here, which had me rather scared. But I think I can make this work. It's a pleasure to meet you, Master. I was sent here from your old home. I was an Abigail for your mother, but, well, I might have made a little goof.
Okay, sorry, that one had to stay. That line is gold. Michel gets hit like a lightning bolt at the mention of his home and tries to get a little more info out of her. She will not say what she did, only that Michel's father sent her here. Which apparently doesn't make any sense, as Michel isn't even sure his father knows he's here. So there's something up with Giselle. Giselle mentions that she should probably make them some food, but Michel is still suspicious of her, so he just flat out tries to ignore her. Yeah, this guy reads a lot more like he's been alone for 10 years than the other guy did. He continues to try to ignore her as she tries to talk to him until he explodes that he doesn't want anything. It is soon revealed that Giselle is being so insistent because she is hungry. He tells her where the kitchen is, and she once again offers to make him something, but he refuses. But she still won't leave.
What is it now?
My name is Giselle. It's a pleasure to meet you. And your name, Oh, Master, you...
Michel just fucking turns around and books it. Back to Giselle. Some time passes. This first section of the chapter plays with pretty much the same events as the previous, and Giselle makes herself at home. She really wants to try to break the ice with Michel, but doesn't really know how. Still, she makes herself useful by starting to clean the house. She finds her way to the library and is stricken with curiosity about what sorts of books he has. She goes to pull one out, takes the whole shelf with her, you know the drill. Michel appears and asks her what she's doing.
I was doing some cleaning, and...
Impressive work.
What an asshole! To anyone else, this would be a turnoff, but unfortunately, I like assholes. Giselle complains once again that this happened because it was too dark, and they should really open a window, and Michel argues that she didn't have to clean. That was her prerogative. But there's so much dust! It can't be good for you! I love Giselle. Can I just say that now? She's my favorite character in this story. Obviously, I voice her. Still, Michel sighs, walks over, and offers her his hand. Right. Of course, you may have still potentially been wondering about the whole curse thing. Well, we're not gonna see quite yet because hilariously he passes right by her and picks up a book instead. God, he is based as hell and not in a good way.
Maybe I was wrong. Maybe he was a terrible person.
Over to Michel once again. Giselle is asking about the books and he hates how nosy she is. He doesn't say, but you get the feeling she's overwhelming him a little bit. Again, we hear the whole bit about one book a month and you can practically see the gears in Giselle's head clicking into place. She calculates, based on the number of books, that he's been here exactly 10 years and 1 month, which is a hell of a long time to be alone. We go through the whole song dance where Giselle picks out a book, but this time she's able to read it. That means she's probably not just some peasant girl. And also, this makes Michel even more suspicious about who she really is. Giselle mentions that they should read together sometime, but Michel still wants nothing to do with her. In a moment where, in the previous chapter, the first signs of a friendship are building, none such exist in the real story. 2 weeks later finds Giselle kind of freaking out about how distant Michel is. She's really trying her best to stay positive and form some sort of bond with him, but he's really not having it. One problem is arising. They are out of food. Michel pops out of nowhere, assuming that Giselle babbling to herself was her talking to someone, but it's just the two of them here, right?
Alive, anyway.
You mean there are ghosts?
Something of the sort.
Giselle thinks he's joking, but has Michel made a joke yet? They have a whole bit about Michel attempting to feed her a rotten parsnip, and just when Giselle's about to ask where he actually gets his food from, there's a knock on the door. As his servant, he commands Giselle to go see about the package, because yes, it is a package. He still doesn't help her carry it in, but I feel as if he's just kind of being a tool again. Inside the crate is, of course, food for 1 month and a book. Giselle again wonders why he's here by himself, and why the servant who delivered the crate didn't even talk to him, and he's pretty vague about it, just claiming that he's not normal. He tells Giselle to take care of it, but there's something else unexpected in the crate. Turns out to be a painting. Giselle tries to get a good look at it in the dark, but before she gets a chance, Michel freaks out and snatches it away from her. She asks if it's important, but when he actually gets a look at it, he relaxes.
A landscape painting. Why a landscape painting? Some kind of passive-aggressive message. It's not of anywhere nearby. Did they travel somewhere? Well, it's not of that girl, so that's an improvement.
Giselle reminds him that she is, in fact, still present and demands to know why he ripped the painting out of her hands and maybe an apology, but he does neither.
We are not equals. Do not mistake yourself for my friend. You have a right to know? You have no such thing. I'll say it again, leave if you don't like it here. I never asked for you to be here, that was your wish.
My wish? Are you out of your mind? I never asked for this, I never wished for it. Who in their right mind would want to be sent to some house in the middle of nowhere? Who would ever want to go through that? But she calms herself down and claims that she just wants to get to know him better, since that would make things easier for the both of them.
Do not try to involve yourself with me. Do not go probing around for information, and if you can't do that, leave.
Over to Michel's brain. Giselle is confusing him more and more. It seems she doesn't really know much about him, despite coming from the Bollinger house. That's his last name. We'll learn that at some point. He's clocked the fact that her bubbly demeanor is an act, that she's not here of her own free will, but he just doesn't understand why she won't leave. He then tries to ask her about that little goof she made back at the Bollinger estate, but buddy, you just told her that she wasn't getting jack shit from you, so why should she do the same? He demands, almost threatens, and still, she refuses. And then he notices the look she's giving him.
Fear, contempt, revulsion, repulsion. The way she acted, the way she spoke. I made her uncomfortable. I made her afraid. She thought I was an abomination.
I think you might be reading a little too deeply into this, buddy, but oh, okay, he's grabbing her by the shoulders and clamping down hard. He screams at her, asks her who she's calling an abomination, but obviously she never actually did that. She squirms free, her scream making him realize what the fuck he's doing. He seems to gather something from her revulsion to him touching her, but she claims that she's allergic to people. Yeah, almost sounds like a curse where you can't touch anyone, huh? He tells her to take care of the crate and stomps off. He is convinced that she knows something about him, that she's here for some sort of specific purpose. So he realizes that he's going to have to write a letter to his mother. So, yeah, this isn't going as well as the last time. What was a scene of two people opening up to each other in the fourth door has become a catalyst for suspicion and almost hatred. In fact, the pleasantness of that previous chapter nearly seems to be mocking us, in a way. This is quite hard on Giselle, and a week later she's sitting in the chapel, staring up at the stained glass window. She wonders if he ever comes here to pray, although he doesn't really seem like the type. At this point, she's not even sure if she really is the type. Because, I mean, hypothetically, if God is real, then why did he make the world such a shit place? Or if he really has no control over how the world is, then what's the point in praying to someone so distant anyway? As she muses, she recalls a bit of how she got there. She's a merchant's daughter, which explains why she knows how to read. Her father died at a young age, and she, her mother, and her sister kept the family business running. That is, until her sister fell in love with an aristocrat, but she needed a dowry for the match to work. It was then, serendipitously, that someone from the Bollinger house approached Giselle, claiming that they had need of Abigail's and they were willing to pay her family generously. That's an unheard of offer for a merchant's daughter, so Giselle accepted in a heartbeat. Now, as she's sitting here in this dark and cold mansion, she wonders how they're doing. As if in response, a cloud covers up the moon, and the light behind the window fades.
You don't even want to look at a sullied woman like me. Oh, for heaven's sake. I never asked to end up like this.
Unfortunately for her, Michel happens to be peeking and shows up at just the wrong time. He's there for the part about her hoping her family is okay, but of course only hears the line about his family having a lot of money. He hears her resentment about the rest and puts a couple of pieces together that he really shouldn't be. He's made up his mind. The letter is written. A short walk from the mansion lives a servant of the Bollinger family. This is the guy that drops the crates off and is also just paid to live here in case Michel needs anything. This is the first time he has needed something. Also, the first night he has been outside in a long time. He threatens him a little because he's a piece of shit, and then hands him the letter for his mother. He receives his response 10 days later.
And shortly thereafter, on a bone-chilling night, everything came crashing down. The rift between us grew deeper, and the wall between us impossibly high, when I lay bare, the scars in her chest, and mercilessly plunged my knife into them.
Giselle is kind of getting down in the dumps about the whole thing. Yeah, living in a pitch-black mansion with a man who hates you can kind of do that to a person. But of course, despite everything, she can't leave. If she does, who knows what will happen to her family?
I had given them happiness. I couldn't take that away from them again. Not after what I had to go through to do it.
She also muses on the fact of the local legend about the witch, and how living in a place like this almost makes her believe it. But she tries her best to shake it off. Things need to change. She and Michel need to talk, and he needs to know that he's not the reason for her reticence. And so she makes her way to Michel's chambers, the one place he told her not to go. Of course, there's nowhere else to really run into him. That's where he always is. She knocks on the door, but there's no response. He's not here. However, the door is unlocked. And if Giselle has one big flaw, it's nosiness. She makes to turn and go, but an object in the room catches her eye. Something covered in a black sheet. So, of course, she pulls the sheet off the object, only to find a painting of a white-haired girl. Okay, so that's really interesting. The white-haired girl was never at the mansion, so Michel said earlier, but that doesn't mean she didn't exist at all. But who is she? Why is her painting up on Michel's wall, and why are her eyes cut out? You will also notice, of course, that this is the same painting Moriya found in the cellar in door 3.
You saw it, didn't you? You entered my room without permission, and you saw the painting, didn't you? Angelic, you say? There's nothing angelic about that damned woman.
Giselle tries to speak to make some sort of excuse, but a second later he has a knife to her throat. And Giselle, spunky, outspoken Giselle, can't get any words out at all.
What were you trying to find, and what were you planning to do with it? Another thing you refused to tell me then? That's fine, though. You don't have to tell me, I have a pretty good idea.
He thinks that she's been sent to find information that could lead to the Bollinger family's downfall. Information on him.
My very existence threatens to tear down that house. The cursed youngest son of the Bollinger family, Michel, who made a pact with the devil.
Giselle finally manages to get a few words out to tell him that that's not true, but then he of course demands what the actual reason is. But she still won't give it. But, Michel actually knows the reason already. He sent that letter to his mother, after all.
In your quest for money.
Don't say it.
You slept with my father.
Giselle flips her shit. She loses control of herself, pushes him away, and runs. She runs all the way out of the mansion into the deep, dark woods, right in the middle of a thunderstorm.
Oh, how I wished a bolt of lightning would come crashing down upon me. Maybe if God burned my tainted flesh with a divine thunderbolt, he would get rid of some of the filth.
She screams at the heavens, but as always seems to be the case in these crying games, God does not answer her. Instead, she's forced to wallow and remember. And so she weaves a tale for us, one of a young merchant's daughter and a sad, old aristocrat who gave her no choice. Quite obviously, she did not sleep with him willingly, and the reason she was brought to the Bollinger estate, despite being only a merchant's daughter, was to be Michel's father's, Antonin's, plaything.
The aging man ran his disgusting, slobbery tongue across my exposed skin. Everything he placed his hands upon withered away. Every piece of flesh he pressed his lips against putrefied, rotted, decayed, rankled. I trembled in revulsion, at which the man laughed, seemingly interpreting it as something else. I wondered what kind of place hell was. If hell's wardens only flayed and carved their prisoners, I would have preferred that instead. But I didn't get to choose my hell. Eventually, the man forced open the gates I had been holding fast and spread his festering death inside me.
Ugh, what terrible descriptions. What a horrifying thought. I love to pieces how this narrative handles this scene. It's horrifying, it's grotesque, but it also manages to retain at least a little bit of class. It focuses almost exclusively on Giselle's headspace and lets us fill in more of the lurid details ourselves, which personally for me is a lot more horrifying. Of course, Antonin tells her to keep her mouth shut, and he'll continue to do well by her family. Apparently, his sons never visit, his wife has lost her mind, and so that's why he's doing this to Giselle. And this goes on for a long time. As it turns out, Antonin also has a sadistic streak. She mentions that he leaves numerous bruises all over her body, but on a bad night, he carved a word into her skin with a knife. The word harlot, which explains why she freaked out so bad when Michel held a knife to her throat.
When I was in his presence, I tried to convince myself I was merely an object. I had no emotions, so he couldn't hurt me.
It all finally ends when Liddy, Michel's mother, finds out about the whole thing, but figures that Giselle is the one who seduced Antonin. She starts freaking out about handing Giselle over to the clergy because she's a devil, a witch, that there's something cursed about this house, that it took away her daughter and now her husband, which is strange. We have never heard Michel mention he had a sister. Antonin, in his sick little way, does care for Giselle, though, and so he convinces his wife to back down on the whole execution thing, and she agrees to banish her to the abandoned mansion that apparently has been in the family for years. And so Giselle finds herself in the carriage on the way to the mansion.
It was a saddening reality, but at the same time, I felt a surge of relief. I had finally escaped from that house. I had finally escaped from that man.
A little while after they leave the capital, the coachman hands her a letter. In it, the anonymous sender tells her that there is already someone living in the mansion, the Bollingers' youngest child, whom she's never heard mention of before. She is to look after him and not ask any questions. On the slim hope that the sender will still look after her family in exchange, she takes on this request. Sans the asking no questions part. This is Giselle after all. And so she decides to forget about everything that happened to her and start fresh in this mansion with this mysterious man. But obviously, that doesn't go quite how she hoped. And now she's collapsed on the forest floor, in the rain, sobbing.
I didn't want to think about that. I've been trying so hard to forget about it. So why? All I did was believe. God, I can't take it anymore!
She can't stop the images of all the torment she went through and vomits everything out of her. Then she truly collapses and begins to lose consciousness. She's convinced that even if she had told him the truth, Michel probably wouldn't have believed her anyway.
If I lie down here and go to sleep, I wonder if all the warmth will eventually drain from my body, and then I'll decompose and become part of the earth. That might actually be nice.
She did her best, after all. Who cares about anything anymore?
Oh God, I doubt you have a place for me on high. I am, after all, an unclean woman, and I've given up on living altogether. But even if I can't get into heaven, that's okay. I want release. And that, I was sure, was the end of me.
We are back in the mansion, after getting a little bathroom break, maybe a drink of water before commencing with the pain. Finally, the maid recognizes him as Michel.
I am not the white-haired girl. The person you were searching for was the man who once hurt you deeply. Me.
Why? He's not sure what that why is referring to, and she doesn't elaborate. But it's time to return to the past anyway.
Our story has only just begun. No matter what we thought or what we desired, no matter what we lost or how much pain we suffered, we must not shut this door. I shall not let go of her hand. I do not want her to slip away from me. I do not want to lose her.
Looking back on it now, the fourth door really was cruel, wasn't it? The white-haired girl, Giselle stand-in, and Michel both had their pain essentially erased. We haven't gotten to Michel's shit yet, but as we can see, in the fourth door, the white-haired girl was traumatized, sure, but it was a very romanticized version of trauma. It gave her no ill effects in her day-to-day life, and while she was very sad, she took all of her suffering on the chin and was almost more there for Michel than he was for her. Again, a very fairy tale depiction of suffering. I'll be making the comparison repeatedly, of course, but I love how real, how raw this depiction of trauma and suffering is, and it's made even more so by giving us this watered-down version of it first. I think the number one purpose of this section of the story, and really, if I'm honest, the rest of it in general, is to take such lofty, gothic concepts like tragic love and revenge and really place them in the hands of real people. What do such things look like in the real world, in a world outside of fiction? Obviously, this story is still fictitious, but it does such a wonderful job of portraying real people, when it's trying to at least, that it feels incredibly real. The next section of this chapter is really long and features some ideas and concepts that really don't come back again in a way that I can't just summarize really quickly for you, so I'm going to do that and then we're going to get back on track. Giselle wakes up in a small cottage tended to by a kind man named Amade. He nurses her back to health, both mentally and physically, and tells her that he found her collapsed in the forest. Apparently, there is an abandoned village a short distance from the mansion, and so a group of peasants have taken to squatting there to avoid paying taxes to a lord. Giselle herself comes to reside in one of the abandoned houses and lives there for a few months. Amade helps her settle in and tells her the rumors about why this village was abandoned. It used to be a large city, apparently, but it lost everything in just a week. Everything died. People, livestock, crops, and no one really knows why. The only thing the writing left behind claimed was that they had been cursed by a witch. It seems that the legends say that the witch who cursed the city lives up in the mansion, and that her name is Morgana. But this doesn't matter anymore to Giselle. She tries to forget all about it and enjoy her new life. Amade as well tries to get closer to her, even at one point asking her if she wants to marry him, but she seems less than enthused about the prospect, and then comes more trouble. As winter turns to spring, the local lord finds out about the group of peasants and not only starts charging them taxes to live on his land, but also to pay a massive amount of back taxes. The villagers turn on each other, and eventually specifically on Giselle, as the outsider.
When their comfortable lives fell under attack, the villagers' top priority became their own property. The cooperation was only temporary, and before long, everyone became a threat.
Eventually, they just straight up drag Giselle from her house and take her to the square. They claim that she's a thief, but refuse to tell her what it is she's accused of stealing, only that she was caught in the act. Of course, the ringleader of this whole thing ends up being Amade, clearly a little peeved at being spurned by her. Remember, she didn't take anything, so she can't confess as such. So they take her to Amade's house and shove a bucket full of wastewater in her face. They dunk her several times and continue insisting that she confess. When that doesn't work, Giselle briefly passes out, and when she comes to, they've decided to make her village property, meaning they're gonna use her body however they like. Of course, she loses her fucking mind at this, and Amade tells her the only way out of this is to bring them something of equal value to what she stole. But this gives her an idea. A terrible, selfish idea, but one that might just get her out of this. She tells them that she knows a place that has plenty of valuable things to sell. The mansion at the top of the hill.
Oh God. When did I become such a despicable woman?
And so they decide to go, and of course, just in case she's lying, they bring Giselle with them. After several hours of walking, they find their way to the mansion. The door, unfortunately, is locked, so they simply decide to break it down. It takes several minutes of bashing, but finally, the door is almost open.
It would seem you are not aware whose house you're trying to break into.
The world went silent, like time had come to a stop. No one could manage to say a word, only stare at the man who had appeared from within the mansion.
Between his pale skin and red eyes, of course, he looks like a demon, and the villagers call him as such, imagining the rumors to be true.
Indeed, I am cursed. A witch, a demon, a spirit impure. Call me whatever you wish, for the truth shall not change. Behold my flesh, pale as the moon. No red blood flows beneath this skin as it does yours. Behold my hair, utterly devoid of color, offered up to the devil as part of our pact. Behold these crimson eyes, a symbol of the lifeblood spilt at my hands. I shall bring calamity upon you as the witch of legend. Never-ending famine, plague, catastrophe, suffering for generations. Until the moment of your deaths, you shall regret ever coming near this place.
The villagers panic and ask him to forgive them. Michel agrees, on 2 conditions. They give him Giselle as an offering, and they never come back. Of course, they readily agree to both and flee into the forest. And so the 2 are left alone.
I had no idea what questions I should be asking anymore. What I should be angry about. What I should be sad about. Not even the first clue.
Look at me. Look at me, Giselle.
He asks her if what the villagers said is true, that she brought them here to plunder the mansion, and of course, it is.
Not only did you seduce my father, not only did you go digging around for information about me, you brought a mob to this house. Were you trying to get me killed? Answer me, Giselle! Not even going to defend yourself, for God's sake! You sicken me. I'm done with you. I'm done. Leave this place and never show your face here again.
Me.
What?
If you want me gone, then kill me! You can do that, can't you? You can use your curse to kill me, can't you? Then do it! Right here! Use your power! Take my life! I'm done! I can't take it! I'm through with this whole world! No one will believe anything I say! No one cares one bit about how I feel! Why? Tell me! Why? Why is this happening to me?
Michel is horribly confused. As she keeps ranting, the things she's saying aren't making any sense to him. He's starting to realize that maybe he misunderstood her situation. He asks her to explain.
You wouldn't believe me even if I told you the real story. I never wanted riches. All I wanted was a decent enough wage to allow my family to live comfortably. But that man, he used my family against me. He made me, forced me to. He raped me!
What?
Again and again, no matter how much I resisted, he wouldn't stop. Again and again. I don't want this body anymore. I don't want to live like this anymore. Help me, please. Set me free. Kill me. Kill me already!
After that, Michel needs a minute. Giselle is still begging him to kill her, outwardly sobbing, and the light's starting to fuck with his eyes. So he gets her inside and waits. She takes a long time to recover, sitting in front of the fireplace and just letting it all out. He has no idea what he's supposed to say to someone acting like this, so he kind of just sits quietly. Finally, her sobbing quiets, and as politely and sensitively as he can, which is not much, he asks her what happened back at the Bollinger estate. She asks if he will believe her, even if what she has to say sounds terrible. He says he has to actually hear her first. And so she does, and Michel believes her. In fact, he's quite horrified at the fact that he shares blood with a man that did something so incredibly vile. Giselle says she has the scars to prove it if he doesn't believe her, but he leaves her her modesty, if only because he can't take anything more right now.
Why had I taken my mother's word? I knew good and well my mother was no longer in her right mind. So why had I thought her letter the truth?
He cites his past, his own character by now consumed by mistrust, and the witch's whispers. Odd. She then finally reaches the near present and tells him about the letter she got in the carriage. She thinks it was from his father, but that's not possible. Apparently, his father thinks he's dead. Michel thinks it's probably from one of his brothers. This frustrates him because apparently they still care enough about him to mention him, but not enough to ever respond to his letters. Rude. Giselle then proceeds to tell him about her time in the village, and that's him all caught up. He just has one question for her. Why didn't she try to explain herself the day she fled? Answer, it turns out, is simple. It was the knife. She just simply couldn't get anything out because he had a knife to her throat. She admonishes him for that.
I have nothing left anymore. So I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel.
You're a jerk! She demands he apologize, and though he's very taken aback, he does. Several times. But afterwards, Giselle almost seems pleased. She expected him to not believe her, but he listened and even looked quite distressed.
I seem to have had the wrong impression of you as well.
She then apologizes as well for bringing the villagers to the mansion. He tells her that she was the victim here, she has nothing to be sorry for, but she still apologizes anyway. And that makes them square. Michel thinks she's really odd. Not only are his crimes far worse than hers, but also he's directly related to Antonin.
Can you honestly say you don't find me revolting? That you're willing to forgive me for that?
I can. Although you don't need forgiveness for being his son. Being related to someone doesn't make you responsible for their sins.
Michel emphasizes that she's a strange girl. Giselle makes a little joke and laughs. Wow. The tension that has been present between them ever since they met is finally dissipating. She asks him, now that she's told him about herself, that he should do the same. And after some hesitation and an odd bout of talking to himself, he gives us a few answers. He is not a demon or anything like that, just a normal man. But he does still claim to be cursed, that his strange appearance broke his mother, made her think he was a demon, and banished him to this mansion. And she's not the only one. The villagers acted much the same way. Giselle tries to protest that was in part due to the rumors about the mansion, but Michel won't hear it.
I'm sure you were afraid as well. You saw me and thought I was not of this world, that I looked like a demon.
I thought you looked like an angel.
So, yes, it turns out that the albinoism thing is why he's here in this house all by himself. He claims it's no biggie, but Giselle can tell he's lying. He can't run, he's being watched, but also he's still holding out a little hope that someday he might be able to return to the Bollinger house. Finally, Giselle asks what that whole thing where he briefly yelled at himself earlier was about.
You don't have to believe me. In fact, I doubt you will. You're free to think I'm completely mad. I can hear the witch's voice.
Though Giselle says she believes him, deep down she really thinks he's just lonely and has been entirely isolated in a mansion for 10 years. But it's time to change that. Giselle has made up her mind. She's going to stay here with him this time.
Well, we kind of took the extremely long route, but there you have it. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance, Master.
Hesitantly, Michel agrees, but asks her one thing.
If you ever want something from me, could I please ask you to put it into words? I don't have much faith in my ability to pick up on things.
Of course, she immediately has a suggestion. She'd like to open the windows. As it turns out, that wasn't Michel's doing. They were already like that when he got here. Of course, he's still sensitive to light, but a little through the windows is of no concern. And so, in a fit of the most obvious metaphor the story has attempted, they do. Later that night, Giselle still has anxieties. Just because things are starting to get better doesn't mean they'll be fixed right away. She still hears the things that Antonin and Amade said to her. But it is then that she hears a knock on her door. Opening it, there's no one there, but on the floor is a single glass of warm wine.
I have a feeling this is going to work out.
And now we are about to enter the portion of this chapter that I like to call, oh my god, they're so cute, can they please just kiss already? The next morning, we see the full version of the scene we saw a touch of in the master bedroom, all the way back at the start of this video.
Master, come on, get up. Up with you, Master!
Michel hides under his blanket. Clearly, he is not a morning person. Giselle, on the other hand, very much is. As Michel continues to pout about being woken up, Giselle tells him that he's very different than what she thought he was.
Let's see. I thought you were cold and cruel, heartless and incomprehensible. But I'm beginning to get a better idea. You try to put on airs, but you're really rather childish. You have a short temper, but can be surprisingly playful. You have a pretty difficult personality, too.
There's not a single good trait on that list.
Of course, then she says that he heard her out and that he's actually kind of nice, and ultimately, now that they're actually living together, there's plenty of time to add more to that list. Giselle thinks the best way to start their new life is to clean this damn house up. Before they start, though, Michel has a chance to look at her properly in the light, and he thinks she's pretty hot. Turns out, Giselle thinks the same about him. And now we are about to enter the portion of this chapter that I like to call, "Oh my god, they're so cute, can they please just kiss already?" Later that day, after Michel reveals himself to be a picky eater, Giselle asks if it's possible to request things in the monthly delivery. Turns out it is, but what she's decided to ask for will remain a secret for now. As I have repeatedly lamented in other videos, it's hard for me to get across more chill, character-focused moments because frankly those are the easiest things to cut out for time. This next section is pretty heavily laden with really cute moments of Giselle and Michel's friendship blossoming, so just know that even though I'm kind of breezing past most of it, it is happening and it is cute as hell. Over time, their relationship softens from master and servant to something more akin to friends. Though he's still a bit awkward at times, Giselle can tell that Michel is really making an effort, which she appreciates. She gets a little more info about him here and there, too. Seems his father wanted him killed because of his curse, but it's thanks to his brothers that he was spirited away and allowed to live in this mansion. They clean and cook. Turns out Michel is terrible at both. And of course, at one point, we have to do the traditional anime accidentally groping her tit bit. It happens when they're cleaning the library and he catches her from falling. Michel obviously feels awkward about it, so tries to say something humorous to play it off.
I'm not concerned. In fact, I see no reason to be concerned at all. It felt like I was squeezing an obese rat. I hardly even perceived it as a breast.
An obese rat?
What?
How utterly insensitive can you be? I'm going to rip every last hair off your head!
Can they please just kiss already?
The obese rat thing almost becomes their in-joke. It gets brought up again, several times. They also play chess together, and though Giselle knows how to play, Michel utterly wipes the floor with her, and she never beats him no matter how hard she tries. You know, I was going to bring this up in a more serious moment, but fuck it. One of the reasons I connect so strongly with this story is because Michel and Giselle remind me of my own relationship in some occasionally quite striking ways, and this is one of them. God damn it, I can never be Dragon at any game we've ever played, and it pisses me the fuck off!
With each passing day, it grew less and less unusual having Giselle always at my side. For 10 years I've lived alone. Solitude had been my normal. But that was very rapidly changing at her hands.
He's just as dramatic as Dragon as well. One of their favorite activities to do together is read by the fire, especially during their first winter. They've gotten very close at this point, though the relationship is still strictly that of friends. They're so close, in fact, that Michel has a rather serious question for her. If his family ever did allow him to come back to the Bollinger house, would she come with him? Of course, that place holds a lot of bad memories for her, but still, she says she would. Strictly, as a servant, of course, they're short of hands, you know. Michel has several unchristian feelings as they sit snuggled together, but for now, let's move on to spring. One night, Giselle marches Michel out to the garden to show him something. Seems like that thing she requested in the monthly delivery was flower seeds, and one of them has finally sprouted. Why did she keep this a surprise? Because she wanted to give him one as a gift. He's so flabbergasted by this that he almost accidentally picks it. Giselle's about to go get him a vase for it when...
For the briefest moment, the moonlight must have played a trick on my mind.
He holds the rose up to her face, and she's immediately flustered. Michel is too. He quickly makes up an excuse. A drawing. He wants to draw the flower, and Giselle would make a nice accessory for it. Sure, let's go with that. They both seem a little uncomfortable, but Michel has dug himself into a hole now. He grabs some old charcoal from the cellar and meets her in the chapel.
What?
I feel like I have to sneeze.
Hold it in, please.
Okay, so this is kind of awkward. Even though he's supposed to be drawing the rose, Michel's eyes are firmly planted on Giselle.
This isn't like me. But what was like me? Did I prefer being a sharp-tongued, unapproachable recluse? Was that what I wanted to strive for? Giselle was like a gale. Her mere presence dispersed the gloomy cloud that always hovered around me. Thinking about it, it's practically a miracle that we ever ended up so comfortable around each other. That she's still here right now.
He thinks she looks so beautiful in the moonlight that eventually he just stops sketching altogether. Meanwhile, Giselle's fucking losing her shit. Deep down, even if she's still trying to deny it, she knows what this means.
There's absolutely no way. He compares me to an obese rat and calls me an amateur at chess, laughing while he crushes me. So that's not what this is it?
Michel comments that if this is a bother, she can leave. Apparently, she was making a stern face. She tries to communicate the best she can that this is fine, but this picturesque scene, the moonlight streaming through the stained glass, it fucking gets to her, man.
I would be happy with anything drawn for me by the man I love.
Giselle freaks out. Michel drops his drawing shit, and Giselle leans down to help him pick it up.
And when I did,
the moonlight shining down upon us intensified.
And our gazes,
of jade and ruby,
intertwined.
Michel puts a hand to her cheek, starts to lean in, and Giselle screams and pushes him away. Of course, we know that this is purely the result of her trauma, but Michel doesn't really understand that. His immediate thought is that he misread the situation and made her uncomfortable. He quickly vacates, telling Giselle she should get some sleep, and Giselle panics, realizing that her feelings are real and feeling like an idiot for pushing him away. Michel flees to his room and is, of course, being a Debbie Downer about the whole thing when he receives a knock on his door.
Master, I need you to listen to me, okay? About, what just happened. That doesn't count. You can't count any of that. That I said I loved you and that I shoved you. They don't count.
Michel says of course he was going to forget about the whole thing, but that's not what she meant. She's asking for one more chance to do it right, and properly this time. And so she does. Instead of this big, dramatic, romantic moment, she stumbles out the words that she really does love him. And of course, Michel is internally panicking.
I was a twisted man, cast out of the world and left with nothing. I had no way to make her happy, but still,
Don't tell me you've forgotten what you are.
And he tells her that he doesn't feel the same. Giselle deflates like a goddamn balloon, and I do too. Stop teasing us already, Hanada, you geek! Michel mumbles out some excuses and turns to leave.
There! You did it! You preserved your peace! Your mistake was ever getting close to anyone. She would never love the real you. No, she couldn't.
Wait. Please don't go.
Michel decides to give it one more try. One last attempt.
Giselle, from the bottom of my heart,
You'll regret this.
I sincerely love you.
Giselle, of course, gets huffy for getting jerked around, and he confesses that he does indeed feel the same way. She makes him say it several times.
I'm in heaven. I'm so happy I could cry.
You are. All over me.
But if that's the case, Giselle does have something serious she needs to talk about. Of course, Michel brings a lot of baggage to this relationship, that's very apparent, but it's sometimes easy to forget that he's not the only one. Giselle has a request for him. She wants him to look at her whole body.
More specifically, my scars. You are going to have to see them eventually, in which case I would like that to be now.
Of course he's hesitant, but he has a responsibility to see them, especially now. So he agrees. She disrobes, and finally, he turns around. Giselle apologizes that she's not anything prettier to look at.
In what way is this not a pleasant sight? I had never been more entranced by anything in my entire life.
Michel is fucking flabbergasted, absolutely mollywopped. He's losing his shit, waxing poetic about how much he fucking loves her body. Future wife guy Michel right here, holy moly! I really love this scene to pieces. Visual novels sometimes have a tendency to view sex in a very specific player gratification sort of light, but Fata Morgana takes the idea of the naked form and makes it beautiful and sad. This scene is not for the player's satisfaction of seeing Giselle naked, even though I'm sure some of them are quite pleased her bazongas are out and set to kill. But if you are someone who is thinking that, Hanada makes it very clear that this is also a sad moment, and you need to respect that. Giselle reads Michel's silence as disgust, but he assures her that's not the case, even with the scars. They're all on her lower torso and are pretty apparent. The lines are arranged to spell the word harlot.
I felt nauseous, heartbroken, infuriated at the fact that the person who had done this was out of my reach, at the fact that I could do nothing for her. Giselle was the one with the scars. Giselle was the one in pain. But I felt like someone had shoved a handful of needles into my chest.
He tells her that she's still beautiful, that she's not filthy. He asks to touch them, and hesitantly, she agrees. As soon as he does, she begins to tremble. She says she's in heaven, but also hates herself. Michel asks her why.
Because I can't stop shaking. I'm overjoyed to feel your touch, but I can't control my body. It kills me that my body won't react the way I feel in my heart.
In the end, the curse that makes it so Michel and Giselle can't touch was very real, just in a different way than was originally stated. The curse is Giselle's past, but luckily for the real-life version, it's something that can be worked through. It will just take a lot of time, and a lot of patience for everyone. You can absolutely see why she used a literal curse in her made-up version, though. It entirely tracks. Michel realizes finally that her shoving him earlier was a trauma response, and she apologizes again. Of course, she has nothing to apologize for, but Michel asks her a weird question.
Do you have any desire to place a curse on him? If you so desire, I might be able to make it happen. Cast a curse on him. Perhaps even a fatal one.
Okay, that was out of nowhere. Giselle is definitely taken aback. Eventually, she answers that no, she would not. Not out of the goodness of her heart, mind you.
I'm just a coward. If my resentment for him took his life, that would mean he had damaged me so permanently I was never able to get past it. I want to be able to forget. I'm still shaking now, but one day, I want to be able to proclaim, proudly, that it no longer has any control over me.
Michel is frustrated. He thinks that there has to be something that only he can do for her. And so he does it. He wraps his arms around her and holds her close.
I will never hurt you again. I want you here with me. All I ask of you for now is to be at my side. You can be scared and you can quiver, but please don't apologize for it. Please don't feel bad about it. I promise not to turn my head away from your pain.
Giselle hugs him tightly and starts sobbing, and he holds her all night while she does.
One day, I'm certain, I'll be able to, without any hesitation, be properly joined with you. And it will be wonderful. Right now, I still can't control the shaking, but eventually, I want to be able to put my hands on you, too.
Eventually, she falls into a deep slumber, and Michel is not long behind her. At some point later on, she wakes him up, and Giselle is back to being her usual bubbly self. They go through the whole Japanese rigmarole of going by a first-name basis, and for a time, it looks like things are going to be happy for them. Briefly, we cut back to the maid.
It was a wonderful story. They overcame their troubles and lived happily ever after. Is that not good enough?
The maid wants to end it here. Michel refuses. They have to see this through. Both of them. The maid makes him promise not to let go of her hand. And Michel realizes that all along, her obsession with holding his hand wasn't a protective gesture. It was a request. So he grips her hand in his, and they fall back into memory once again. One day, an indeterminate amount of time later, Michel receives a letter from his family in the monthly deliveries. It turns out, his father is dead. His father, the reason why he's stuck here in this mansion, the man that tortured Giselle, is dead. On a personal note, Michel asks the witch if this was her doing, but she remains silent on the matter. This also means that, very potentially, Michel may be welcomed back to the Bollinger estate. Of course, they both have some slightly mixed feelings about this, but in the end decide that Michel should write a letter and request they both be allowed to return. So while they wait for a response, they make preparations to leave. However, on one dreadful, foggy day, Giselle spots something odd through the window. A light. Followed by many others. torches approaching the mansion. And as she watches them, something whizzes right past her cheek. She realizes a second later that it was an arrow. Michel comes in from out of nowhere and tackles Giselle out of the way, just in time for another arrow to pierce the wall right where she just stood. Neither of them know what's going on, only that they need to get the fuck out. They make it to the front door, ready to book it, but whoever is after them is very organized and are prepared for them to try to make this exit. Giselle thinks this is her fault, that it's the villagers getting organized and coming to take out the demon that lives here, but Michel knows that's not the case.
I challenged her, and because I did...
Giselle has no idea what he's talking about, but there's no time. They continue to run. If they can't flee, there's only one option remaining to them. Hide. Michel decides the best, most out-of-the-way place is the observation tower. Through the windows on the way up, Giselle notices that the people surrounding the mansion are wearing armor. These are no peasants. These are knights. Michel thinks it's because of his curse, and in that moment, Giselle realizes that there's something more to it than just his hair and eyes. Still, he doesn't answer as they make it to the top and huddle in a corner of the room, trembling together. Michel is desperately hoping they overlook this place, and they can make their escape.
I'm sorry. I'm to blame for this. It's my fault you're in this mess. The pain you had to experience, you're being sent to this place, and what's happening now can all be traced back to my being born. I'm so sorry.
Why was he apologizing? Why did he insist this was his fault? Why wouldn't he tell me what his curse was? Why were people trying to kill us?
The two of them are not like their false versions in Door 4. There is no dramatic last kiss. They sit huddled together in a corner, terrified of death, helpless to do anything to stop this. Eventually, they begin hearing the clanking of armor on the stairs, and they know that there's no getting out of this.
Michel, I'm all right. You're here with me. After all, I'm fine. It's all fine. So please, hold me until it's all over. Please, stay with me.
Oh, finally you speak.
But he's not talking to Giselle. Instead, Michel is staring off into a corner of the room, his lips moving silently. Eventually, he turns back to her, with a grim determination on his face. He tells her that she's the light of his world, and that he's so scared of losing her.
So please, allow me to repay you. I haven't given you anything. I haven't done anything for you, so give me one final chance.
He books it, running out of the room and slamming the door behind him. Giselle obviously gets to her feet, running after him, but when she reaches the door, rotten and old that it is, she can't open it, to the extent that it feels more like a wall than a door. Of course, we know exactly what this means. Michel has decided to sacrifice himself to save Giselle.
Giselle, the witch told me that she would ensure your safety.
Michel, she isn't real! There is no witch talking to you! It's all in your head!
Rest assured, she does not lie.
He tells her to move past this, move past him, and live a wonderful life. But all she wants to do is die with him. And yet he doesn't listen, and the nights approach.
Michel, it is our holy duty as knights of the church to deliver punishment unto the heathen who made a pact with the devil. You are sentenced to death, your body to be hanged upon the cross for 3 days and 3 nights, wherein your unholy flesh shall be purified by the fires of heaven.
Why? What are you doing here?
You shall now be executed.
And so they do, gruesomely and horribly. Eventually, Giselle hears them drag his body away. She's sobbing, losing her mind, but still, she's stuck on the other side of the door. Until, suddenly, quite of its own accord, the door opens. All that remains is a trail of blood and the bitter cold of the night.
You didn't understand at all, Michel. You didn't know the depth of my feelings for you. I was never going to be able to find someone else and live happily with them. It had to be you.
And for a time, let us leave Giselle here and go back to the mansion. I spoke about most of the things I wanted to talk about within the context of the door, but just to reiterate, I love how this door takes the basics the previous build, but utterly ripped away the fairy tale quality. This is not a tale of destined, star-crossed lovers, but of two very broken people trying to put each other back together. It is so much more of a raw experience, and though you inevitably find door 4 heartbreaking, once you read door 5, it seems a hollow shell of an experience in retrospect. Even just in terms of the characters' personalities, Giselle is, instead of a demure ingenue, a little firecracker who uses her boundless optimism to cover up everything she's really feeling inside. In contrast, Michel wears his misanthropy on his sleeve, which leads to a lot of confusion in their relationship, as Michel has to slowly realize that Giselle is just as messed up as he is. She's just constantly hiding it to protect herself. But it is that very optimism of hers that allows Michel to pull himself up from the depths of despair, to stop listening to the voice of the witch. We will be talking about that a lot more later. But for now, let's see what these two chucklefucks are up to now that the beans have been thoroughly spilled.
I remember. You died on that day. You disappeared from this world and left me behind. You refused to listen to me. Do you have any idea how it felt to feel you dying from the other side of that door?
Giselle.
Is this what you so wanted to see?
Of course, Michel himself cannot take us any further. This is where his memories end. But quite obviously there has to be more, right? Giselle and the maid are still two very different characters after all. We need more of the story.
Very well then. If you want more story, I will tell you more. What comes next is both a continuation and a brand new tale. The Maid's Tale. When you've heard it all, I expect you to commend me for not forgetting how to smile.
Again, Michel realizes how much he has to atone for, and they are once more sucked back into the past. All right, we're back. There was a little break, but now we're back. I had some lunch. It was yummy. I got a sandwich from my love dragon's place of business.
This is my tale, and the maid's tale. A tale of a foolish, naive girl. Looking back on it now, I'm ashamed of everything. But I will tell you my story, in its entirety, without embellishments. I ask that you please not let go of my hand.
We pick up right where we left off. Giselle sitting with the only thing the knights left behind of her beloved Michel. A pool of blood.
There's no point in a life without you. You know that, right? Have a wonderful family. You know I can't do that.
She begs him to come back to her, and when he doesn't, is just about prepared to follow him into death.
Dying won't guarantee you get to see him again. He spends all his time refusing to talk to me, and when he finally does, he begs me to save his love. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Rather disappointing, to be honest.
Giselle is very confused by this disembodied voice suddenly speaking to her, but it bullies her until she finally realizes that this is the voice of the witch Morgana, the one that Michel claimed spoke to him. She was always real.
Michel was not even slightly mad, my dear. I told him he was better off without his sanity, but he refused to listen.
Morgana bullies her some more about not believing Michel, but expresses that Giselle does have her pity. She had nothing to do with their misfortune, and only wants to help. It was her who sealed Giselle in the tower, after all, because it was what Michel wanted.
So, you're planning to die? Are you hoping to reunite with him in heaven? That plan's destined to fail from the outset, my dear. God teaches that suicide is a sin, and you'll go to hell for it.
And of course, Morgana won't kill her, because she promised Michel. However, if Giselle has any other wishes, Like, say, his reconstruction?
Just imagine it. Finding your beloved again after overcoming so much tragedy. 10, 20, maybe 100 long years from now, you're finally reunited. Doesn't that sound marvelous?
Giselle clarifies that reconstruction means reconstruction, and she agrees to pray with the witch for Michel's rebirth. However, there's just one itsy-bitsy, teeny-weeny little problem.
Michel's is the only reconstruction I will wish for. I will not ask for yours. You're not looking at a benevolent wish-granting goddess or an angel with a magic bow and arrow. You're looking at a cursed witch.
But how is she supposed to reunite with him then? Oh, well, that answer's simple. She'll just have to stay with Morgana in this mansion for a very long time.
I have work to do, but I cannot do it alone. I need a guide to assist me, because, as you can see, I have no body.
This was supposed to be Michel's role, but obviously that can't happen now. All Morgana asks of Giselle is to entertain some guests of hers that will be someday arriving at the mansion. Some other reconstructions. I'm sure you can kind of guess who she's talking about.
Several heinous sinners. So I want you to serve as a maid and watch over them when they arrive. And until then, keep the house in good condition.
Though she pries, Morgana gives Giselle no more information. Of course, this is a devil's deal in the making, but what other choice does Giselle have? In addition, Giselle mentions that the witch's voice also has some sort of power to it. It seems to make people believe her, as Giselle just simply agrees. And as soon as she does, the mansion ceases to exist in our world. It falls back into darkness. No light comes through the windows. The concept of day or night don't really seem to exist, and it seems to hover in some unknown abyss. Giselle herself also changes. All of her human urges simply vanish. She feels no need to eat or sleep, and she's Noah's perfect girlfriend because she doesn't poop. She decides to wander the mansion to see if anything else is remarkably different, but of course she ends up headed towards Michel's bedchamber. There she gets briefly emotional but finds something under his bed, the painting of the white-haired girl. And Giselle remembers that she never did learn why he hated it so much. But as she's looking at it, something bizarre happens.
Did the painting just smirk at me?
She stumbles back into a drawer and notices that it's filled with letters. She picks one up. It'll have Michel's handwriting, so she wants to keep it, but as soon as she looks at the page, she realizes that it's entirely blacked out, as are all the others. She chalks both of these up to pranks by the witch and regretfully moves on. The front door won't open, of course, and there's some mysterious force that's keeping her from even touching the windows. She's trapped here, alone with the witch. And so she stays there, cleaning the house to keep herself sane for a very, very long time. All the while, Morgana is blatantly harassing her. You get the distinct feeling that she doesn't like her very much. One day she taunts Giselle into looking at the mirror, and Giselle is horrified by what she sees. It seems a lot more time has passed than she thought.
My face was pale and lifeless, my eyes hollow, my cheeks sunken, heavy bags beneath my eyes. My hair had lost its sheen, and it grew wildly. I was quickly losing everything that made me recognizable as me.
Morgana claims that it is neither her nor time that is causing this. It's Giselle's own negativity, which just seems like some bullshit if you ask me.
Did you think you didn't have any dark, ugly emotions inside you? Did you believe you would always be able to smile no matter what? Did you assume you were pure and beautiful? No one like that exists, my dear. What you see in the mirror is the true you. Your hideous, twisted heart.
Frankly, it sounds to me like you're projecting a bit here, Morgana, but okay. She bullies her a little more, but does give her some good advice. To practice her smile, lest she lose her ability to do so when Michel comes back, however many hundreds of years that might be. Because, quite obviously, Giselle is not really alive anymore, so she can wait here in this mansion for as long as it takes. And that turns out to be a very, very long time. After the first 100 years, she loses her sense of time, simply wandering around the mansion in a daze. Next goes her sense of self. She has lived here in this place much longer than she was alive, after all. That entire past could just be something she made up. But if there's one thing she clings to, it's that Michel was real. He had to be, otherwise what would even be the point? Her personality goes next, although that was already long gone if you ask me. This does lead to the witch being a little nicer to her, though, at least. It is then that she tells Giselle that they're going to make her some new clothes, something more period appropriate. She instructs her exactly how to do it, and of course, her new outfit is that of the maids. More time passes, and Giselle is beginning to forget the one thing that she never wanted to. Michel.
What did your voice sound like? What kind of faces did you make? Where did you like to put your hands on me? I don't want to forget. My memories of you are the only thing holding me together.
You know it's gonna get serious when the YouTuber sits down in the chair. Allow me to indulge in a slight personal aside. When I first read Fata Morgana, it was this section that fucked me up the most, this one that I related to. Remember when I said back in the last video that I'm pretty sure Hanada has been in a long-distance relationship before? Yeah, in my mind at least, this pretty much confirms it. Obviously, Giselle is going through some highly exaggerated emotions, but genuinely, this is what it feels like sometimes. Many of you now probably weren't around for this, but Dragon and I met in the early days of my first YouTube channel, the one I post stories to now mostly. We lived very far away from each other, so we really only got to see each other about once every other month, when we'd both skip college classes and scrape together enough money to buy a plane ticket. This went on for a whole year until finally life situations changed a bit and it was hypothetically possible that he could move in with me as the one with the apartment. However, what followed was an entire summer of me sitting alone in this apartment while he took on extra shifts to afford the move, but otherwise kind of sat on his ass about the whole thing. So just like Giselle, I was essentially all by myself in a tiny little room, going crazy, waiting for a time that I wasn't sure would even happen and that I could have no effect on. Eventually, he did get off his ass, and we've been living together quite happily for, oh god, almost 7 years now? Jesus Christ, I feel old. Okay, let's move on. But you can see how this section of the story hit me so strongly because I related to it so much, and different people have had different reactions to many segments of this tale. I relate to this door, but I've seen a lot of people talking about how they relate to other characters or moments with the fervor that I did with this one. And I think part of the beauty of this work is just how deeply it seems Hanada dug into the human experience to make sure that everyone has one of these moments while reading his story. This one just happened to be mine. Finally, after who knows how fucking long she has spent waiting, something within the mansion changes. Light floods in through the windows, and god, this song that is playing is so heart-wrenching. It feels like the sun coming out after a storm, and god, it really hits. I often avoid talking directly about the music because I am certainly no expert in music theory. That's OP artist Daniel Teach's bread and butter though, if you want to see some of that good shit. But this song always strikes me in particular as well, so there you go.
The smell of grass. The chirping of birds, the glistening blue sky. It was like 1,000 memories rushing back all at once, and it brought tears to my eyes.
The time has come, Giselle. It's time for you to get to work.
God, Morgana, you've always got to be such a buzzkill, don't you? No fucking wonder Michel was so gloomy all the goddamn time. If you'll recall, Morgana wanted Giselle to treat some guests that were coming to the mansion, and it seems as if the first has arrived. A little appetizer, if you will. Of course, you're probably thinking that this has to be Mell and Nellie, right? Well, almost. there's someone who owned the mansion before their parents did. Their grandfather. His name, it turns out, is Hayden, and he seems to think that Giselle is a servant that he asked for, even if she's a lady. An interesting detail is that since this store took place in England, Giselle at first has trouble communicating with him. She is not magically granted the ability to speak fluent English. Luckily, her merchant background gives her a little skill in the tongue, and Hayden vows to fix that quickly. He's a somewhat eccentric old man and immediately takes Giselle under his wing. She acts essentially as his personal assistant, and he teaches her everything she needs to know about being a maid in these new, modern times. She comes to love him almost like a father. This nice, new, peaceful life continues for quite a while until one day Hayden's very distant son, Mell's father, sends him a gift. Some lovely tea leaves and very expensive sugar. Unfortunately, the sugar ends up being poisoned, and though he manages to cling on for a while longer, Hayden's death is assured. Giselle cares for him as much as she can, but on his deathbed, she breaks down. She can't go through losing someone again.
I don't know how long I'm supposed to keep waiting. If something doesn't happen soon, I don't think I can hold myself together much longer. I was so close to breaking down, and it was you who kept me on my feet.
But Hayden has one last piece of advice for her. Build a cocoon. Create an outer persona to play, and protect her inner self while she waits for Michel to come back. He does warn her that if she relies too strongly on this shell, she could potentially lose that inner self she's trying to protect, but it's a good emergency measure. And the next morning, he's dead. Giselle falls into a deep gloom, questioning everything.
What am I doing here? What kind of person were you, Michel? What kind of person was I?
Oh, my dear, you look positively miserable.
Enter Morgana once more. She explains that Hayden was not one of the people she was waiting for, and in fact, she has a lot more heinous things planned for them.
The worst torture can only be inflicted upon the living. The stage hasn't even been set yet, my dear.
And of course, Giselle is supposed to play a part in that. She already has. She's the one who fed Hayden the sugar that killed him after all, which is ridiculous. There's no way Giselle could have known, but is that going to stop Morgana from gaslight, gatekeep, girl bossing her way into this poor girl's head? Not at all. In a fit of despair, Giselle grabs a knife and holds it to her chest. Without her, Morgana is nothing after all.
What are you thinking? Don't do this, Giselle! Don't be foolish! Put the knife down right now!
I've missed you so very much, Michel, but if my being Morgana's guide is going to cause other people suffering, then I can't.
She stabs herself, and nothing happens. There's no pain. Not even blood.
Absolutely brilliant! I told you not to be foolish, but you just wouldn't listen to me.
God, Morgana's such a fucking bitch. That was absolutely fucking cruel, and we honestly love her for that. But of course, when faced with both an abyss of time, torture for everyone around you, and a manipulative witch constantly babbling in your ear, Giselle is forced to take Hayden's advice. And so she builds a cocoon.
It was in that moment that all the light drained from my eyes, and it was in that moment that the Maid was born.
And this is, of course, when Mell and Nellie come to reside in the mansion. The Maid looks on as they enter its doors for the first time, knowing that only despair awaits them on the other side. But her heart is already frozen solid, and so she simply stands back and lets it happen.
Ah, at long last, the time I have been waiting so long for has arrived. Darling, devoted Giselle, I know not how to describe for you the fiery excitement burning within me.
And so, to a dead and unprotesting Maid, Morgana decides to tell her story. Tell her exactly what it is that Mell did. But we are, of course, not privy to this information at the moment.
So let us curse them. All of them. Let us inflict a pain worse than physical torture on them. Let us put their souls on the rack for all eternity. Curse them. Make them suffer. Curse them!
The maid is, at this point, not doing well. She remembers very little about her human life at this point, and the only thing she remembers at all about Michel was his white skin and hair, and red eyes.
And that's why, when I saw her that night, dripping from the storm raging outside, I thought, you're finally here.
That's right. In yet another knife twist in the gut, the maid has mistaken the white-haired girl for Michel, which will, obviously, not end well. And so it's time for a greatest hits section. Let's go back through every scene from the first 3 doors where the maid and the white-haired girl interacted, now with context. These scenes make a lot more sense when viewing them from the other side.
It's getting late. You should get some rest. But first, may I ask you one thing? I do not believe you have given me your name yet.
My name is Michel.
See, we here in Visual Novel Land can see the fact that her name is spelled in the feminine way and that the maid's Michel is in the masculine, but unfortunately, the maid does not have access to the 5th dimension such as we, and so for her, this is confirmation of her identity as Michel. So, that's probably not good.
You are the one. You are the one I have been waiting for. I have endured so much in anticipation of this moment, so that I could reunite with you. You came to this place to see me again, did you not? I never gave up hope. I always believed, and I hope you'll praise me for that. And I ask you to please say my name, to please make me.
I don't know anything about you.
Oh. Shit, yeah, that's gonna put a damper on things. There's obviously one question you're probably asking yourself right now. Is the white-haired girl Michel? Like, our Michel? It seems like a series of very odd coincidences that she is identical to our Michel in every way sans her gender. Is she a series of failed reconstructions, getting Michel almost right with one thing just not correct? Is it all a ploy by the witch to fuck with the maid? Neither us nor the maid have any real answers to that question right now. I think all we can do is continue to watch and suffer. Jesus, Morgana, you keep talking about revenge, but what did we as the audience do to you, huh? The maid kind of freaks out on her when she doesn't remember anything, but eventually has to concede that it's not yet time to reunite. The white-haired girl asks the maid who she is.
I am but a simple maid. Nothing more.
Ow! Fucking ow! Jesus Christ, Hanada, one of these days I'm gonna fly to Japan, track you down, and pick your brains about all this, because this is a wonderful amount of pain you're causing, and I would sincerely like to know just how you do it. The maid ends up consulting Morgana about all this, as she's the only one who really knows anything, and Morgana has nothing but sympathy for her. She also tells her that this might not be her only chance. Maybe next time around Michel will remember her. So the rest of Door 1 goes by exactly how we remember it, and the maid passively wonders what happened to Mell after he left the mansion. We learn that post-Door 1, Mell became a priest and Nellie died a few years later of an illness.
I couldn't bring myself to grieve for them, or to reflect on Hayden's sorrowful end. I simply waited for time to begin moving once more.
And of course, eventually, it does. Time to see what remains of Door 2, because there's some stuff here that the maid neglected to show us last time. So let's pick up right after Yukimasa killed his first victim, the merchant who we spent almost the entire chapter thinking was him. Yukimasa's fucking giggling up a storm over here, but the maid can't help staring at the body. It's the first time she's seen a corpse so mutilated. Yukimasa gets a great idea. Since he's the master of the house now, the maid has to do anything he says.
Chop up his arms. Make stew out of him. And don't you hesitate, or you'll end up like him.
Yes, master.
And so, reluctantly, she does.
There's blood all over my hands. No matter what happens, It won't affect me. The cocoon is not the real me. I was looking down at what could only be described as a pile of human debris. I had done this, but that fact did not register with me. I felt nothing at all. Not regret, not anger, not sorrow or despair.
Put it on the fire. He said he traded spices that should give him a very unique flavor.
Cool, we're just gonna add cannibal to the list of Yukimasa's egregious sins? I'm real sorry, Pauline. I don't think even the most manic pixie spunk you can muster is gonna fix this man. The maid hesitates to follow his orders for a moment, and he perceives this as fear. So he skewers her with his katana, no questions asked. And as soon as he realizes that she's not dying, he's looking at her in disgust.
Is that all, Master? Are you not going to dismember me? You could try stabbing my face, or my neck, or my stomach, or any other part of me. Maybe then I might die.
I get it now. You're the witch, aren't you? I see. Only monsters ever had a place here.
The maid, at this point, really has no idea who she is. It's been so long and she's been through so much pain. And that is, of course, when Michel returns to the mansion. Of course, there's a little hope for the maid here. Michel seems to think that the two of them have met before, if you'll recall. We thought it was just from the first door, but maybe there's more to it than that. She doesn't seem to recall anything in specifics, but the maid can't bear to be hurt again. So she tells her it's probably for the best if she doesn't remember anything. Her name is, once more, Michel.
Why must you continue to bring me pain? Why can you not set me free, as you were supposed to?
After she's asleep, the maid breaks down in, presumably, silent lamentations.
Did you pity her, having to go through tragedy after tragedy? But every time she showed up, she said she did not know me, bringing me more and more grief. I had been waiting for hundreds of years, waiting for her for so long. My mind was slipping away with each passing day.
As she stands there over the white-haired girl's bed, she contemplates just killing her now, since she doesn't remember her anyway. But she can't do it. She runs and hides, trying not to see the events of the rest of the chapter, which is why she was essentially a non-presence after this moment. But as an inhuman inhabitant of the house, she is still forced to witness all of the horrible, bloody events of that door.
He was a beast through and through. And what a fool he was to think he could become human. I love it. He destroyed everything he had with his own hands, and then couldn't even manage to mourn for it.
She insists that the maid laugh with her, but nothing matters because Michel is dead again. At this point, essentially dead inside, the maid and Morgana laugh together. And so, we now cut forward again to the third door, and it is here. It is one little thing that makes the maid forget her true identity entirely. Remember, when we initially confronted her, she thought that she was the witch Morgana. The white-haired girl obviously shows up before the door properly gets going, and this time around the maid is hoping that she'll remember even just a little bit more. But when they meet, all she says is,
"It's a pleasure to meet you."
There is no recognition in her eyes. Absolutely nothing. We're back to square one. The maid cries to Morgana, begs her to erase her, to end this torment. Morgana speaks to her like a mother would a child.
Oh, you poor thing. You've spent so long riding the currents of time that you've lost sight of yourself. You've convinced yourself that someone else's story is your own.
And Morgana has been working on her for so long, slowly breaking down her identity to such a degree that she is able to convince the maid that she fell in love with Giselle's story so much that she began to think of herself as her, and that the voice in her head she's been hearing is her old identity as the witch.
You split in two because you refused to accept who you were. Think about it. Have I ever shown myself to you? Have I ever shown myself to anybody?
I see. It all makes sense now. Everything has fallen into place. There's one thing I still don't understand, though. This story I was so enamored with, Giselle and Michel's story. What kind of story was it?
And, giggling to herself, the witch Morgana proceeds to weave a tale of tragic romance about a girl accused of being a witch and a man with a curse that prevented him from touching her. The events of the third door pass by with almost no interruption by the maid. However, she is always still there, till the very end of Jacopo's life.
May I ask you a question, Master? Why have you not returned to your homeland? Do you still believe she will return?
Tell me, was her name really Michel?
You have waited so long that it would seem, like me, some part of you has begun to break down. You poor, poor man.
You know, you look a whole lot more pitiful than me.
Shortly thereafter, Jacopo dies, and the mansion once again sinks into darkness. The maid wonders what the next era will look like, and maybe this next time she can convince Michel to abandon her story and become her master here in the dark. And that was when Michel, the real Michel, finally arrived.
I prepared a number of things to say when she was finished with her tale, but I can't manage to put any of them into words. I almost hate myself for thinking it would be so easy, for letting myself hope I could simply pull her back to her old self.
The maid has been through so much tragedy and so much pain, both her own and that of all of the residents of the mansion. No wonder she's so fucked up. She laments that he did not appear before she was so irrevocably warped that the person he fell in love with doesn't exist anymore.
How can you be sure that even now, I still love you? Can you deny the possibility that I no longer yearn for you, but the white-haired girl? Can you deny the possibility that my love for you has transformed into hate?
She reaches her hands up to his neck, and he doesn't flinch. But he knows he has to say something. This next bit is weird, because this is set up as a choice, but it's not really one. There's only one thing you can say, but if you don't click the button in time, Michel will instead just stay silent. What a fucking troll-ass move. It obviously leads to a bad ending, but let's instead be on our A-game and hit that fucking button.
Of course I'll deny it. While I was floating in the darkness, I heard a voice. Regrettably, it took me far too long to realize that it was your voice, crying for help. You may have lost hold on your old self, but somewhere deep down, you kept calling for me, which is how I found my way here.
He continues, saying that she can hate him all she wants, but he'll fight for their love forever. Still, she claims that person he loves no longer exists, that she's a monster, that he should forget all about her. But to him, she looks just the same. Giselle continues ranting, saying terrible things about herself, both justified and not, and even compares herself to the white-haired girl. But Michel doesn't love the white-haired girl. He loves her. Finally, the ice begins to melt. Giselle begins to cry.
I missed you so much, too!
She leaps into his arms, and though her body is as cold as ever, their embrace seems to break through the miasma surrounding Giselle. They are back in the observation tower, back in the mansion. Giselle apologizes for forgetting him, and Michel confesses that he was actually really afraid that she did hate him. But now that they're together once more, and more or less intact, it's time to get the fuck out of Dodge. Michel wants to try to find a way to leave this mansion.
We finally found each other again. After so long, I want to share a quiet, modest life with you, like before. What if that all disappears when we step outside?
They are essentially dead, after all. But if they stay here, it won't be the life Giselle wants. The darkness will slowly eat away at them. They need to do something while they still remain themselves. So she agrees. But before they do, there's one thing they need to do first.
Say, we're in the middle of a very, touching reunion, wouldn't you say? And wouldn't you say there's a certain way these things usually go? I was, hoping you might, perhaps, kiss me.
What?
He's like, let's deal with that later after we're, safe. But she makes him promise he will. And here we have a 1 week till retirement moment, because as soon as promises are made, an interloper appears. Darkness covers the room. Two lovers scream out for each other. Something is slowly pulling Giselle away, and try as he might, Michel can't seem to reach her.
The more you struggle, my dear, the thicker and more palpable your filthiness becomes. It's sickening, wouldn't you agree?
Morgana!
Morgana is somehow holding the two of them in place, away from each other. Michel begs Morgana to let Giselle go, but Morgana still needs a devoted servant. She can't just let her go. They still try desperately to reach each other, but Morgana carries Giselle away.
Stop. Please, don't do this. Take me instead of her. Why does it have to be her?
Why? Because your work is done, my dear. By all accounts, as the one who resurrected me, you should have become my guide as well. But you let a silly woman emotionally manipulate you. And you gave up on cursing others. And then you threw away your life, deluded into thinking you were protecting her.
He was supposed to fill the role Giselle was shoved into, but he died before he could, and there's no way he can ask for the part back now. Michel begs, telling Morgana he'll do anything. And finally, Morgana acquiesces. On one condition.
I want you to entertain me. Will you endure maddening agony for me? If you need her that badly, you can bear anything, can't you?
He agrees, and Morgana cackles. The world around Michel fades, but he is determined that this time he will be there for Giselle, just like he always promised he would be. The house in Fata Morgana has a lot of very painful moments. As I was so adamant about in the last video, it seems to really relish in the pain it causes in its viewers. And now I think I'm finally able to speak on why that is. It's because of Morgana. Morgana is the character at the very center of this story. She's the one that is ultimately the root of all of this unhappiness. And I think the greatest part of it is she is present in the tale long before you even know who she is. Repeatedly, over and over again throughout the first 3 chapters, the game proved that it was willing to fuck with you and lie to you, and even that it hated you. And that was Morgana. This unspoken of presence that was so strong, even if we didn't know she existed, you can still feel her. Hanada wrote those first 3 chapters, and the rest of the story, of course, with that malicious angle to indicate this presence. Which is why, when she's finally properly introduced at the end of Door 5, she feels like a natural fit. It feels like she's
been here the whole time.
Even if we had no idea, because her role as the manipulator of these tales has been thrust so firmly in our face under the guise of the author himself. I think it's an absolutely brilliant way to write a story, and one that I've never really seen replicated anywhere else, to have the villain such an intrinsic entity that even the narrative itself feels like her. Just like the characters, we ourselves feel stuck in Morgana's mansion, prisoner to the narrative, unable to do anything but witness the events unfold. Even the few times we've received options, it's only really been to avoid immediate death. But the most important thing to remember when writing a story as dark and terrible as this one is, to make sure there are a few moments, however small, when you give the reader a moment to come up for air. That's what the latter half of Door 5 was primarily for, and now, even in our darkest hour, we get another very small one.
Hello? Master? Hello? Is anyone in there?
This is, quite obviously, a memory. One from when Giselle and Michel first decided to try to start over. I won't be lingering on it very long, since it's mostly just a series of questions you can ask that promote small talk between the two of them. You can accidentally call Giselle an old hag by guessing that she's gotta be over 30. She's just about 21 at this point. Upon asking about her family, we can also learn that Michel has 2 brothers, and though they initially seem to want to help him in the fallout of whatever happened that got him sent to this mansion, he's not sure if they still feel the same way. Giselle insists that they must.
Let's believe in them together, then. Anything you want to believe, you should. It's such a better way to look at the world than the other way around. You have to be positive, or one day you'll crack.
You can also ask Giselle about her romantic preferences, and she seems to be into really tall, buff men? Okay, guess that doesn't hold. Ultimately, it's just a simple, everyday conversation. But it's something that clearly stuck with Michel. It's something that's important, these small moments.
Giselle, I was too awkward back then to even compliment you on your smile. To put my feelings into words, I was too cynical to accept what you said at face value. I'm not much better now than I was then, but I will tell you this. When I next see you, I want more than anything to let you know how much I adore your smile.
You must never reclaim your old selves. Become my loyal servants, always at my side, and curse them with me, my dears. Eternal suffering on all their souls.
Man, she really seems to be on about this suffering stuff, huh? I really fucking wonder what's got her panties in a bunch. Regardless, Michel slowly regains consciousness, waking up in the exact same chair by the fire that he started in. He's really out of it, but he stumbles to his feet, and that's when he realizes something. The floor is covered in about 1 inch of blood. Delectable.
Blood of unknown origin not only covers the floor, but also streams down the walls and drips from the ceiling. I'm speechless as I behold the dreadful scene. Every breath I take tastes and smells of rust.
The thought of Giselle being trapped among these same sights propels him to action, so he treks to the last place he saw her, the chapel. However, it seems the door to the observation tower won't open, and before his eyes, 3 chains seal the door shut. Clearly, this is where he's supposed to go, but he simply can't open it with these chains. And that's when he notices that there are also 3 locks holding the chains in place. So it's time to search around the rest of the house. He doesn't just want to wander around blind though, so he thinks about where else he's gotten a key from before. Of course, it was from the painting. Unfortunately, the painting doesn't seem very talkative at the moment. Michel begs for him to say something, and finally, something emerges.
Is someone there? I feel kind of strange. Everything's all red. I can't stand it.
He seems pretty fucked up, but Michel can communicate enough to try to speak with him. He explains the situation, but the painting doesn't have any immediate answers. Still, he has a few speculations. He thinks that it definitely has something to do with Morgana's past and the people she keeps cursing.
The keys are probably with the 3 of them. The 3 shadows. You must have seen them.
Find the men, find the keys. Seems simple enough. The painting warns that they probably won't trust us right away, but luckily I have a sneaking suspicion that we're already familiar with these chumps. Alright, our mission is set, but before we go, the painting has one more question for us.
You're Michel, aren't you? I've wanted to apologize to you for so long.
But the painting gets cut off. Michel begs him to say something else, but it seems like there is no more talk to be had. Michel seems to have a suspicion about who the man in the painting is and vows to come back once everything is finished, but for now, Giselle is our priority. Michel has to visit the 3 locations of the 3 doors in the correct order. Try to do them out of order and you'll get a bad ending. In Yukimasa's he just straight up kills you, and in Jacopo's he ends up shooting Michel, and Morgana convinces Giselle to become a much more willing puppet, but let's just head to the Rose Garden for now and run into our first suitor.
Someone, get me me out of here. Oh God, tell me I'm not the bad one here.
Of course, Michel knows this boy quite well, but he has no recollection of Michel. They've never actually met, after all. At first, the boy seems a little more than a shadow, but Michel doesn't have time to fuck around.
Answer me, Mell Rhodes. I know that's you.
Who are you? How do you know my name?
Of course, Michel's name sounds familiar to him, but his Michel would never come back, so they can't be the same person. Of course, Mell does have a key to the tower, and though Michel vaguely explains the situation, Mell seems very hesitant to give it up. He agrees to do it, under one condition.
Set me free. Convince her to release me from this place. I'm begging you. Promise me you'll get me out of here.
Michel isn't even sure that's a good idea. He has no clue what Mell actually did to Morgana after all, let alone if he could convince her to free him. Seeing Michel's hesitation, Mell tells him that actually he dropped the key in the bushes over yonder. You know, the rose bushes, infamous for their horrible thorns.
I really want to hit this boy.
Don't we all, Michel? Don't we all? He didn't say because he thought Michel wouldn't help him if he knew he didn't actually have the key. So Michel digs down into the bushes, but no matter how deep he goes, no matter how busted to shit his arm gets, he can't find the damn thing. At first, Mell cautiously watches Michel almost lose his entire arm to the thorns before he finally grows a conscience.
I'm sorry. I do have the key, actually.
You what?
I'm so sorry. It didn't look like you were willing to help even if I gave it to you, so... Plus, she told me not to give it to anyone, for any reason.
Hold still so I can beat you.
In any other circumstance, I would judge you, Michel, but holy shit, let me at him. This child needs to die. After Michel scares the shit out of him, Mell agrees to give him the key with no fuss. What a slimy little shit. Was he always this cowardly? Weak? Maybe it's the effects of being stuck in this mansion for so long. Before he goes, Mell asks if the person he's looking for is really worth it, which of course she is. This makes Mell remember his sister, Nellie, of course, not the other one, and he tells Michel to do something nice for her if he runs into her.
That, I would say, is your responsibility.
But he agrees to keep it in mind. Finally, Mell warns him that the other two suitors are not as friendly as he is, and Michel says he'll be careful. The most deadly one is next, after all. Michel now heads to the cellar. At first it seems empty, though the stench of blood here is somehow even more overwhelming than the rest of the mansion. He searches around until a shadow emerges and holds a sword to his throat.
A key. You have a key. The boy's key. Did he give it to you?
For some reason, it seems like he knows who Mell is, even though they lived 100 years apart. Michel explains the situation, and Yukimasa just straight up hands it over.
I no longer have any reason to guard that key. In the past, I might have severed your head from your shoulders the moment you mentioned it, though.
He asks Michel if he knows why he's here, but at the moment, Michel has no answers for him.
Get out. Take the key and get out of here. Get out!
Not wanting to tempt the beast, Michel simply books it, probably for the best. That means there is one more to go. On his way up to the den, though, Michel has some questions. Why did Morgana mention some sort of past with these men? And just what was it they did to her? There's nothing within the doors to indicate any interaction with her whatsoever, and in fact, she was already hell-bent on their torture before the events of their doors even began. Something weird is going on here, methinks. However, once he gets to the den, Michel is met with a surprise. It's Giselle, standing in the center of the room looking down at the floor. He runs to her, shakes her, but she is as unresponsive as a doll. Of course, he quickly realizes that most likely this is the witch fucking with him. This probably isn't her. These calm thoughts bring him back to himself, at which point he realizes that there's currently a gun pointed at the back of his head. He drops as the gun goes off.
Missed.
Through the haze of the gunfire, he sees a silhouette.
Not a problem, though. I'll finish you with the next one. Now you hold still, boy. Start running around like a rat, and I can't guarantee a painless death.
But why is Jacopo even trying to kill him? Apparently for the simple reason that he's making too much noise. Michel explains the situation again for a third time, and though Jacopo initially tries to deny he has a key at all, once Michel tells him that the other two gave theirs up, he's a little more talkative.
Take me with you. You have the other 2 keys, don't you? Then you can open the door. Bring me to the witch.
Wait, slow down. What are you planning to do when you see her?
What do you think? She has to. She has to.
And suddenly, Jacopo is just gone. Poof! Vanished. And where he stood, now lays a key.
Are you trying to rile me up, Morgana? Are you enjoying yourself up there, showing me these phantoms and watching me squirm? Just you wait. I'm on my way.
Back in the chapel, the keys fit the locks perfectly, and the door opens. Even though he has no weapons, no expertise, he still has to confront her. So with no hesitation, he pushes open the door to begin his ascent, and is met with a cascade of blood, which is making it pretty difficult to climb.
Now this brings me back. You climbing these stairs alone, just like old times. I waited so long for someone like you to show up. Someone with enough despair to resurrect me. But now, I don't see it in you. I don't feel one bit of that intense hopelessness anymore. And here I had thought we were cut from the same cloth.
Of course, Morgana is firm on her word. She'll give Giselle back if Michel can make it to her. But she never said it would be easy. This is not the set of stairs we remember, long as those were, but these ones keep going up and up and up forever and ever. Michel doesn't really seem to struggle with them all that much. Man must have thighs of steel. Holy shit, I'd be tired after like 100 of them. In the meantime, he decides to question Morgana. First about the house and what she's done to it. She kind of tries to dodge the question unless he's, genuinely interested in her now after all this time. Michel needs every advantage he can get, so he asks Morgana to tell him about herself. First of all, she is not really a witch or anything supernatural. She's just a normal human. Obviously, Michel struggles to believe that.
Think back then, would you? Recall our time together. Did I ever once use magic? Did I control fire or wind? Did I create illusions? No, I did none of that, because I could not.
In the real world, she is simply a ghost. But here, in this place which seems to be the house of death, that is different. Every soul here is dead, and the land of the dead works differently. What it boils down to is that in the world of the living, Morgana is powerless. But here, in her mansion, she can do anything she wants. This is her world. Morgana questions why, knowing all of this, Michel still desperately wants to save Giselle.
Dead or alive, she still lives on within this house, and my spirit found its way back too. Why then should I not wish for her to have a future? Having seen what lies beyond the door in her heart, I could never let her remain here with you, trapped in this world bereft of light, drifting aimlessly for all eternity.
Morgana kind of laughs at that, but Michel reiterates his point. He wants to know how Morgana became a witch. Morgana calls his ass out. He doesn't really care. He just wants to know for Giselle's sake. Despite that, Morgana agrees.
Though I ask you this, will you rise in despair with me? Will you endure maddening agony for me? Will you face despair again and again and again?
Honey, we already have. Although Morgana does caution that since Michel has regained himself as a person, it's going to be a lot more, personal this time. Alone, without Giselle, he will feel all of Morgana's pain as if it were his own. Knowing these terms, he still agrees. And as he continues to climb, Morgana begins. For those of you who only really experience visual novels through my videos, I know you're out there. Stop trying to hide behind your couch. Allow me to nerd out for just a moment before we continue, because we have here an opportunity to discuss something we haven't gotten to yet in these videos. You might notice how the text has changed locations. It is no longer on the bottom of the screen. Rather, it is laid out even more like a traditional novel in the center of the screen. Traditionally, there are two methods of delivering text in visual novels. The type that we're more used to nowadays is called ADV mode, short for adventure mode, which is, of course, where the text appears on the bottom of the screen and character portraits are above it. It's called adventure mode because it was first made popular by ADV games, or visual novels with gameplay elements. Ace Attorney, which we've already covered a fair portion of, is a very traditional form of ADV. The other type, what we're seeing right now, is called NVL mode, short for novel mode. It was actually incredibly common for older visual novels to be told entirely in this way, character portraits and CGs behind it and everything. Higurashi, for instance, was originally an NVL game, but the 07th mod patch that I installed for my playthrough changed it to ADV mode instead. It has its benefits, obviously. You can see a bit more text at once, and you can read it a bit more like a real book. However, it kind of blocks everything on the screen, and I think there's a reason why it fell out of favor. Nowadays, this format change is usually used to highlight specifically important sections of text, like the obvious importance of Morgana's backstory, although there are a few exceptions, like, most famously, Fate's Stay Night, which you will read in NVL mode or not at all. Okay, sorry, I'm a total dweebus and totally didn't use this digression to troll you and make you wait even longer, so let's finally get into it. What is the deal with the witch, Morgana?
The words of one foolish woman determined the course of my entire life. Did her claim come from fate? Was it her way of escaping reality? Did she do it for money or fame? I don't know.
The village where this woman lived was suffering from a terrible drought, after years of just bad harvests in general. This woman happened to find herself pregnant, with no husband. And so, as you did back in the height of the Dark Ages, as this presumably had to have occurred several hundred years before Michel was born, the woman claimed that her child was the child of God himself. And on the day Morgana was born, true to her word, it rained.
It was nothing more than a fluke, an improbable stroke of luck.
Morgana knows that she must have had a father somewhere, but back then, as a child, she believed wholeheartedly that she was really God's daughter, and most of the village agreed with her. Except that one day, one man didn't. He told her to prove it. Back in the day, blood was considered a highly tainted substance riddled with disease, but if Morgana really was a saint, then her blood would be different. She finds an elderly woman on her deathbed, gives her a pinprick of her blood, and within a matter of days she is well enough to get out of bed.
Now, I'll be honest with you, I was ecstatic. The villagers showered me with adulation, and on top of that, my blood could cause miracles. Tell me, do you look down on me for feeling the way I did? The actual child of God would never let herself be consumed by such base emotion, would she?
I mean, she did kind of let all of this go to her head, and oh my god, she was 6, never fucking mind, that makes total sense. Of course, rumors of the saint spread, and soon people are flocking to the village from far and wide to receive her healing.
Running out of skin on my fingers, I cut the back of my hands, my palms, my wrists. Before long, they had turned into swollen, carved up black and red horrors.
But still, she cherishes those wounds. They represent her power and holiness. This continued for 3 years until one day her mother reveals her slight discontent with the situation. She asks Morgana why she doesn't charge people to receive her healing. But of course, Morgana is flabbergasted. This is important work. Helping people is her divine calling. As she goes to sleep that evening, she's convinced her mother has understood.
But the next day, I was sold off.
Early in the morning, she's shoved into a cart and witnesses her mother accepting a bag of coins from those who have kidnapped her. Any other 9-year-old girl would have thrown a fit, but not Morgana. She deems this a trial from her father and sits quietly all the while. For weeks. Finally, the cart arrives at a city, and she is dropped off at the home of a lord. The lord tells her that she'll be performing miracles for him now. Morgana is furious. Miracles are not meant to be used that way. But now the lord owns her and binds her hands and feet. He cuts into her whenever he feels like, using her as a kind of oddity at parties.
That was when I realized the Lord was only interested in the approval of others. He reveled in their envy as he pranced about, showing off his curious new toy. Me. He didn't need my miracles.
Still, this continues on for a very long time. Morgana is constantly anemic, in a half state of delirium.
For a while, I was convinced it was all God's test, that it was part of his plan for me, his daughter. that if I could make it through this trial, I would be allowed to go back to helping people. That man would celebrate my success, envy me, worship me. That sinners would face punishment. That divine retribution would be delivered unto all who had wronged me. A saint. With each passing day, my spirit grew more twisted.
And one day, her face came to match it. A guest points at her and screams in horror, and the Lord, upon examining her, claims that she is no saint, but rather a witch. He raises his sword above his head and swings it down on her. And back to the staircase very briefly, because that's all Michel can take for a moment.
Whose blood is this streaming down the stairs? Is it hers? Is it mine? Who am I? A saint? A witch? Is what I'm seeing through a lens of clarity or madness?
Oh boy, he's not doing so hot. He shakes himself, remembers that he is not Morgana.
It hurts, doesn't it? It's hard to breathe. Your chest is on fire. Your vision is blurry. It's dark. It's lonely. It's scary.
This was her pain in that moment, and my god, what we just saw her go through was frankly inhuman. Michel looks down at his arms, and now he has all the scars and scabs and putrid flesh that she did. Morgana bullies him a bit, saying that she thought he was so determined. He wonders if this is why she's like this, but Morgana laughs. The Lord didn't kill her then. Oh, lordy, we've got so much left to go. Let's buckle the fuck in. Morgana was not the only slave at the Lord's house. There were many, and in a stroke of luck, they chose that moment to revolt. Morgana is saved by a young man who drags her from the manor. He takes her to a slum and hides her in a brothel. Morgana is, of course, horrified that she could be brought so low, but the boy promises her that this place is run by someone she can trust. And though she remains suspicious, thinking that any day the whores will tell her that it's time to earn her keep, they don't. She cleans and cooks for them, but otherwise they let her stay there with them, with no questions asked. Morgana also realizes why the Lord and his guests acted the way they did on that final night. The boy gives her a mirror, and Morgana sees her face.
It had to be an illusion. There was no way. That was not the face of a saint. It couldn't be.
Whole patches of skin have flaked off, looking almost like the flesh on her arms. Thinking she's been abandoned by her father, Morgana begs the boy to kill her, but he refuses. And suicide is a sin, so Morgana can't kill herself. Thus, she's stuck at the brothel. However, as more time passes, she becomes more accustomed to this life. A simple one. Not as a saint, but as a girl. And she learns about real kindness. Despite always being pressed for money, whenever they have a little to spare, the whores are always buying ointments and medicines to try to help Morgana's face. And the slave boy sticks around. In fact, he seems a little smitten with her, claiming that one day he'll show her the world.
My time at the brothel was probably, all things considered, one of the brighter chapters of my life. There I was neither a saint or a witch, but an ordinary human girl, and with each passing day my intractable worldview was gaining a little flexibility.
Although she never gave up the idea that her blood could heal the sick, that's the one thing that she could never quite let go. She lives in the brothel for 3 more years, but unfortunately, as these things tend to go, nothing good lasts forever. The night of her 12th birthday, the brothel is raided by bandits, and all the women are bound up and sold into slavery. Again. Except this time, Morgana isn't given her own private cart, the new pet of a lord. No, now she's huddled in the back of a huge cart, men and women packed in so tightly that they can barely move. Morgana truly realizes what awaits her at the end of this ride. And for the first time in her life, she cries.
Why are you crying?
The man next to her asks her this question. To Morgana, he looks odd. His facial features are different from that of anyone she's ever met. However, she doesn't have much time to consider this, as the man suddenly stands up, and though he is just as shackled as all the others, proceeds to beat the ever-loving shit out of the guards. At first, the slaves are elated. They've been saved. But as soon as the man is free, he starts carving into the other slaves as well. Eventually, Morgana is left sitting in a pool of their blood. For some reason, the man leaves her alive. He flees into the night, leaving Morgana alone. So we should probably discuss the elephant in the room now, right? I mean, that was clearly Yukimasa, an odd-looking man who kills everyone he sees? Come on. but if you think about it, that's a bit odd. Clearly, he was alive back then. I suppose that Morgana has claimed to be praying for many people's reconstruction, so maybe he was one of them. Maybe from here on out we should be keeping our eye out for the other suitors. Back with Michel, now it's not only blood but bits of flesh raining down on him. When he opens his mouth to vomit, it's simply filled with blood. Of course, now that there was a time in Morgana's life when she experienced maybe some semblance of happiness, now all of the shit she's experiencing is all the worse for it, and she regrets ever having that time in her life.
Tell me, my dear, do you pity me? Do you sympathize with me? If you feel bad for me, then you'll remain with me. You'll feel my pain and my despair with me. Won't you?
And once again, Michel is dragged beneath the surface as Morgana continues. With the brothel gone, Morgana has absolutely nowhere to go. So she stumbles off into the night and kind of just ends up wandering around for a while. A while here meaning several days without food and water. Eventually she finds a lake with a little cottage beside it. Desperate, Morgana knocks on the door, but when no one answers, she finds it unlocked and steps inside. Within is an old woman, dead in her chair. It seems she was some kind of herbalist, or a witch, as Morgana calls her. It looks like she was simply just old, as she looks very peaceful in death. Morgana dumps her body in the lake, thus tainting the water and making it undrinkable, way to go, and essentially takes the witch's place in the cottage for several years, until the age of 16. The only real contact she has with people is when they approach the cottage seeking medicine, though she never lets them inside. That is, until one day, when a young man approaches the door.
My sister has fallen very ill. She desperately needs medicine.
A young man with a sick sister, huh? Well, there's two things we know about Mell. He's a young man, and his sister is fucking sick indeed. Morgana comments that she finds him rather handsome, and notes that he doesn't flinch at her appearance. She agrees to try to help, but it seems like it's a process. They've already tried a number of things, but his sister just keeps staying sick. So he comes to visit Morgana multiple times, and gradually she opens up to him. She allows him to take her on walks around the lake. Apparently he is a noble's son, but disputes over the rightful heir forced him and his sister out. Now they live a very simple life, or they would, if not for his sister's illness.
I'll take anything at this point to make her better. I'll even take a miracle if I could get one.
Did you say a miracle? Morgana decides to trust him. She tells him who she really is, and about her powers, and he believes her. In fact, he takes her to his house right away, and she gives his sister her blood. She seems to recover very quickly. However, it does not seem permanent, as she's back to being sick a few days later. Morgana speculates now that it was simple placebo that made her initially get better, although back then she didn't know this, so Morgana continues to give the boy's sister her blood. But unfortunately, over time the boy seems to grow more disturbed by this whole giving his sister blood thing.
That was what I got for opening up. That was what I got for letting this kind, warm light shine in on me. The moment things went bad, he pulled away.
But she continues to help them, nevertheless. Until one day, she receives a new visitor. She hears his voice from the other side of the door.
Are you the witch with the miracle blood?
Okay, this motherfucker is not being clever. First of all, nobody should know what her blood does. Second, he isn't even trying to disguise his voice. She knows exactly who he is, and refuses him service. She's afraid he's just going to bust the door down, but he leaves peacefully. 3 days later, the boy returns.
I'm sorry for being so distant lately. I want to talk things over.
Morgana is ecstatic to hear. Of course, she wants to talk to him as well. But as soon as she opens the door...
How could this be happening? What did it mean? Why? How? What was that man doing standing behind him? Why was he carrying a sword? And why did he swing it down, severing my arm?
Yeah, so the swordsman is back. It seems the boy led him here, and he means business. Morgana's arm is literally on the floor. He throws it to the boy and calls it his share. The boy flees with the arm, leaving Morgana alone with the swordsman.
Nothing personal. I just need your blood. Without it, she'll lose her church.
Don't take it personally? What the fuck is he on about? Holy shit, I'm with you, Morgana. The fucking gall of this man.
How could I not hold a grudge? How could I not despise them? How could I possibly forgive them? Tell me, please, tell me, how could I?
And then he explains something as he drags her away. Apparently, the Lord set him up to this, offering to buy an unnamed her a whole new church if he brings Morgana to him. There's only one Lord that Morgana knows, but this time, it seems like he's going to do a lot worse to her. The swordsman brings her to a church in the outskirts of the city, one that apparently is a charitable organization that cares for the poor and sick. It is also run almost entirely by one nun, who is referred to as the Saintess. Morgana is obviously quite pissed about this. He drags her to the top of the observation tower, and there, she reunites with the shitheel lord, whom I'm sure at this point we can all kind of guess is Jacopo. He explains to her that he's going to sell her blood as a miracle elixir, literally the thing she never wanted to do that set her on this path in the first place.
If they knew it was actually the blood of a witch, they would think it unclean. They would fear it.
She stays up there for a long time, growing progressively weaker. Unlike the last time, it seems like the Lord is doing nothing to keep her alive, simply draining her as much as he can. She overhears the three men talking. The boy, the swordsman, and the Lord. And it seems like they each have one key that locks her in this tower. Hence why Michel had to go through that whole song and dance earlier. I'd say, if anything, this proves that the specific people Morgana really has a grudge against are the three suitors. And yes, I'm sure you realize now just how ironic that title is. He. Come the spring, the Lord holds a festival, at which Morgana's blood is served in copious amounts, and Morgana can hear all of the festivities from the top of her tower.
I heard the flaxen-haired girl's voice, who had regained her health drinking my blood. I heard her brother's voice, who had betrayed me. I heard the nun's voice, who played saint in my stead. I heard the barbaric swordsman's voice, who had chopped off my arm. And I heard the Lord's voice, the root of all my suffering.
All of these sinners, propped up on the suffering of one girl. At noon, the church bell tolls.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And with the 12th chime, I died.
And only minutes after, the three men enter the tower.
Why? I never wanted her to die.
Seal the tower off. Understood? No one finds out about this.
How can you be so calm? Do you understand what you've done?
Pinning the blame on me. How nice it must be to be able to distort reality with panic.
You're just as guilty as any of us.
They're not even upset at her death. They're just squabbling over whose fault it is. And Morgana, from somewhere above her body, is cursing them. For it is just then, in that moment, that someone, whether God or the devil, hears her prayers and answers them. From the garden comes a scream. It's the boy's sister. She vomits blood onto the grass and then promptly dies. And then the boy says something that will cause ripples for aeons, something he wasn't supposed to say.
The witch killed her. The blood of the witch killed my sister. That wine you're drinking is no medicine. It's the blood of the witch.
Then he immediately proceeds to grab a fork and shove it into his own throat. Panic ensues. The nun, as the saintess, is the first to become victim to the people's wrath. Then the swordsman goes down trying to protect her, and finally the Lord goes down to meet them and also suffers a similar fate. That ends the day's panic, but only a little more than a week later a plague hits the city, and within that week everyone is dead, and Morgana's body is left to rot at the top of the tower. Most likely, all of this was caused by the fact that Morgana's blood is probably filled with infection at this point. She's had her arm cut off and no medical treatment that we know of, so it's probably gotten hella infected. As we continue from here on out to slowly receive some answers, one of my favorite aspects of this story is that at almost every point, we are given both a potential supernatural cause to the events of the story and a realistic one. Morgana's blood could easily have actually been powerful, or it could have all been placebo. We simply aren't given evidence enough one way or another. Her blood could have then cursed all the city folk to death, or, as she speculates, her blood was probably at that point filled with some kind of horrible disease from her time stuck in the tower. But even after they've died, even after she has as well, Morgana is not satisfied. So she makes another wish, one for their reconstruction. For the boy.
He treasured his dear sister, and he desired a quiet life. So I wished for him to have just that. And I wished for his dearly beloved sister to love him more than anything in the world.
For the swordsman.
He was conscious of his tendency for violence, and he yearned to be more human. So I had his inner beast toned up just a little. I saw to it that he would never be human.
For the Lord.
He seemed to have great affection for wealth and authority, so I ensured those were the only things he could ever have. Eternal suffering on all their souls, an endless cycle of reconstruction and unavoidable tragedy. Tell me, my dear, do you sympathize with me? Will you curse them with me?
Michel falls to the ground, feeling actively like he's dying. Of course, he thinks his left arm is severed as well, and in a pool of blood he sees the skin on his face sloughing off. Morgana continues to bully him, claiming he'll never make it to her. He'll never be able to endure the pain that killed her. All he has to do is turn around and go back. But once again, Michel remembers Giselle, and he remembers that he can't give up for anything. Sometimes the love of another person is all you need to endure the worst. And so, to Morgana's surprise, he continues. He continues to climb up the tower, ever onward towards Giselle. And finally, he makes it to the door.
I pity you. I truly do. You were a saint shackled with an unfathomable fate. And for that, I am enraged.
If you truly feel that way, then why can't you stay here with me?
Because hatred only brings you pain.
Morgana laughs at him for spouting platitudes at her. She calls him out. She knows that in the end all he really wants is for Morgana to keep him and Giselle out of this. And he admits that he regrets not asking Morgana about herself sooner. He apologizes to the witch, and she decides to let him into the tower. But once he opens the door, he sees something strange. He's in his bedroom. And Giselle is there. His Giselle, not just some illusion. But something seems wrong. Giselle is not smiling.
What do you say we pull back the curtain, my dear? There's one detail that hasn't yet come to light. This isn't your first return to the mansion, is it? You've been back numerous times, each time not remembering her, and each time hurting her even more.
Michel claims he has no idea what she's talking about.
Tell me, how was it? Living in so many different eras, not knowing who you were, and playing with all the different men?
No, you're out of your mind. You make it sound like I was...
Not like, my dear. You are the white-haired girl.
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm sure all of you suspected this as well. They look entirely the same after all, with one minor exception. Michel tries to use this as his excuse, but Giselle then drops a bombshell on him.
I saw the letter. The one you had hidden. It all makes sense now, Michel. You're...
He begs her not to say it. He's on his knees, pleading. That is the one thing he can't bear to hear from her.
Not actually a man at all, are you?
What cliffhanger? We're going to discuss Morgana's backstory and then we're gonna wrap up. Something that is often a mystery writer's biggest worry is giving the answers. It's usually a pretty delicate balancing act because most of the time, if you give the audience all of the answers, they will be left unsatisfied. It's just like horror. Oftentimes the idea is in the audience's head, or hell, just even the idea of the mystery itself is much more intriguing than the actual answers given. And we as writers can never truly predict what answers the audience will find satisfying and which they won't, because frankly, everyone is a little bit different, which leaves a lot of writers, including myself, to sometimes just forego certain answers, to leave the audience to think about it themselves. This is not bad advice per se, if done in moderation, but Haneda has managed to do something so masterful that it still boggles my mind to this day. He gave out all of the answers. We haven't gotten everything yet, but I promise you by the end of this story, almost every single pertinent question will be solved. And even more impressive than that, solved in a way that myself and a piss ton of other people have deemed supremely satisfying. I'm not quite sure how he did it. I think it's a combination of how long it took us to get them, combined with the fact that all of the answers are entirely logical and also entirely unexpected. We are fed just enough through Door 6, through Morgana's clear hatred of the specific characters from the first 3 doors, and then more confirmation of specifically the suitor's involvement through Michel's mad dash to the mansion, that by the time we actually get the answers to why she hates them so much, it is a solution we would have never reached the specifics of ourselves, but we had the outline down enough that we're still surprised yet ultimately proven right. It is almost the opposite of the twist after the 4th door. After getting jerked around for so long, any reasonable answer feels supremely satisfying. Human beings also like seeing patterns. We like it when things all tie together, and the fact that the first 3 doors were a piece of string left dangling so long makes it all the more sweet when they're finally tied back into everything we have been seeing in the chapters since. And with this final reveal, we know how Michel is involved. Kind of. But let's take a second, before we depart, to talk about Morgana herself. As a character, she's been so built up as an entity that it's impressive she lived up to her reputation. Her name is of course in the title, though we don't know the connection yet when we start our journey. We spend the first 3 doors only really hearing vaguely about her. We have no way of knowing that she is the weird voice that speaks to the characters at several points yet. If you were clever and found the hidden text in door 4, you got a little sneak preview, as it's pretty safe to assume that this is the witch we've been hearing so much about, even if we might not even know her name yet. And finally, after largely being absent from door 5, maybe only really being in Michel's head, she finally makes her grand appearance at the beginning of door 6. She seems to have all the answers for Giselle, but quickly proves herself the supreme bitch. Morgana turns out to be incredibly cruel, matching the narrative style from the first 3 chapters. Even if she hasn't been a physical entity until now, her presence has been all over the narrative. We have felt Morgana's hatred throughout this tale, even when we thought it was just the narrative itself. Her hatred has seeped through the very pores of this work, and it is frankly remarkable that when we finally get the answers, when we finally realize why she's like this, it is not an utter letdown. I believe that everything Morgana went through would cause her to become a being filled with pure hatred, and while we don't quite know the motivations of the suitors yet, I believe in what happened to her. It is entirely realistic and entirely satisfying, and I don't know how Haneda managed to do it. For the last video in this series, everything else will be unveiled. Yes, there's still a whole video's worth of story to go, so I will leave you with just one more little question to think about over the next couple of months while you wait for my ass. In Morgana's backstory, there were actually 4 important male characters. There was the Lord, the swordsman, and the boy. But there was also the slave boy who saved Morgana and brought her to the brothel. We know pretty distinctly who the other 3 are, but who could that slave boy possibly be? Don't let it keep you up too late, and try to get some sleep tonight. Special thanks goes out to my Priests of the Hog and my Elder Hog Prophets, 89 Slam 89, Adra, Chronoton, Death Kitty, Eshok7, Jonathan Hummel, Madam Mr. Sir, Magil of the Shadows, Royal Cobra, Ventus Agri, and Walla Wallace. Thanks so much, guys.